ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome.
사람들에게는 만사의 형통할 수 있는
And the kingdom of God and his citizens are kings and queens that stand with the king of kings and his kingship, that rule with a rod of iron in peace, justice, and mercy. Citizens are ours.
Now, the Rod of Iron Ministries, which is another offshoot of this church,
This is a satanic antichrist devil. These are not real Christians.
This is a cult.
We're very much opposed to it.
We don't worship government, we worship God.
How many of you feel safer knowing that your teacher has a gun? All of you.
We need to turn back to God.
Not to be dependent on the government.
Revelation 3:11, let no man take thy crown, hold fast to what God has. Good morning and welcome to the King's Report, Friday, May 18th, 2018, 9th year of Chungi, 4th month, 4th day by the heavenly calendar. I'm your host, Hyung Sean Moon, second king of Chuniguk. Let's go first to Tim the Agent Elder for our AccuWeather forecast. Tim.
Good morning. It's 58 degrees and mostly cloudy at the Chuniguk Palace this morning, going up to a high of 67 today, with fog in the morning, cloudy and high pollen. Tonight it's going to get cooler than it has been, down into the mid-40s, cloudy becoming rainy. And then tomorrow's going to be a rather rainy day all day, only getting up to 58 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But in Sunday, though, and next week, it looks like we're going to have a string of pretty good days. maybe a thunderstorm in the area on Sunday, and thunderstorms possible other days, but a pretty nice week coming up next week. But the weekend, or at least Saturday, it's going to be pretty rainy and cold.
Well, we were planning to go out with the Sanctuary Academy young people today and do some bushcrafting, but we have to get in that the book.
Mm-hmm. The book.
The book has to get in by Saturday. So since that new development happened, I had to cancel on them, tell them let's reschedule. So they're off the hook.
I think they're very disappointed.
They're off the hook on this rainy, dreary, colder day. And the Queen was very happy. You know, she said she had to stay home to support. She had to stay home to morally support me as I edit the final copies of the book.
Rod of Iron Kingdom.
Rod of Iron Kingdom. Okay. Oh Lord. Alrighty, folks. Well, it is gonna get cooler. Thank goodness for that. Just to give an update, let's go to our Instagram page here. Go to Instagram Tech Team, pull up Instagram, put up rodofireministry.com. There's no .com, is there? Just go to Instagram and pull up the. Yeah, it's probably faster. Here, if we do it. Oh, that in a new tab. Boom. And we'll go to Rod of Iron Ministry here. Check out some of the fun videos. Wow, this one already has over 169 views with the Queen. Look at that. Look at this one. And I checked it last night, and last night we had some like world champion black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys liking this video. They really liked it because it's we're a couple and I'm training the Queen. They like it. So the Jiu-Jitsu community is definitely liking this video. Let me play this for you real quick. Is there any way to make this video bigger? I don't know if we can make it bigger on this. Maybe like just like that. Let's take a look at some of the moves of the Queen. Ready? JCC2. See that? See it? You see it at the end? No, I asked Tim. I said, Tim, what does JC stand for? What did you say?
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. He knew that. He actually knew that. Okay. And then I said, what does C2 stand for?
Second Christ.
Okay. JCC2 right there. Boom. Isn't that fun? So this is a whole new set of Instagram photos series that we may be doing with the hand symbols at the end too. Isn't that fun? Okay. So that's me and the Queen. Here's my baby girl. Oh, daggone, I don't know how to do that. Okay, we'll just go in. Flying armbar technique. Look at that. Look at that technique. You see that? That was pretty good, wasn't it? JCC2. Isn't that fun? JCC2. Okay, and these are BJJ sisters. This is Emo and the Queen. Practicing some technique. Sweep to X guard. Roll over sweep to armbar to reverse triangle. Now you guys don't know what's going on there, right? That's now C2, 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 C2. Wasn't that fun? 이게 좋아 그래. 에? 어머 멋있어? 에? Okay. All right. And then this is the king getting some reps in with the rod of iron reps. Make sure you get your rod of iron reps in and breathing training in a 2-point sling configuration, immediate light on. And if you listen closely, I am pulling that trigger, so it's going. And then the breathing. You gotta breathe before you turn your gun off. You gotta breathe. Scanning. One more time, breathing. Then it comes off. Wasn't that nice? So you gotta get JC, C2. See that? Can you see that, or is that too small?
I can't see very well from here.
You can barely see. If you listen carefully, it's a yeah. Obviously, it's dry fire training. When you can't get to the range, you get your dry fire training in. Always scanning, breathing. One more scan over. And that's the air pistol. Look how awesome this is right here. That's the rod of iron right here, baby. Baby rod of iron right there. JC, C2. All right, there you go. Now this one is fun. Look at this. Look at this Instagram post. This I retweeted from Tig. When you've mastered every leftist argument. Racist, bigot, KKK, homophobe, Nazi, misogynist, blah, blah, blah. And they have a scene from Matrix. Very, very funny. Very, very funny. That's a funny one. And this young man down here, I don't know who this guy is, but had a nice tweet. He said, let's talk about gun control. Banning or restricting firearms is the most white privileged idea ever. Rich liberals scoffing at the notion that a person might need to defend their own life is a tower so ivory you can't look at it in direct sunlight. It's the personal safety equivalent of saying just have the maid do it.
There you go.
Ooh,
that's right.
Man.
That's right. That's right.
All
That's
control,
right. That's good.
All gun control is racist.
All gun control
Hashtag,
is racist.
Yeah. Hashtag all gun control is racist. So you know, the liberals are now getting shamed. They're starting to get shamed. Anyways, that's the Rod of Iron Ministry Instagram webpage. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. And let's go to drudgeboard.com for our headline news. Take it away, Tim.
All right. Yeah, the Mueller investigation is still left top. Rudy says, we'll rip Mueller apart. Had an accident with a bicyclist in Manhattan, but find a Mueller report by Labor Day, ? Leaker of Cohen docs left database audit trail, experts say. So Avenatti, that's Stormy Daniels, a lawyer, claims that 2 more women claim hush money.
Well, that lawyer was caught playing with Don Lemon
That's
in
right.
a party photo that was deleted. So he's hanging out with the CNN propaganda media.
Yes, he is.
Fake news media.
Manafort former son-in-law cuts plea deal. What is special counsel's next move? Congressional candidates, not Mueller, could decide a Trump future. Maybe so. Google envisions total data collection. I think we knew that. But anyway.
That's what their whole platform is.
Yes,
we all know that. Facebook, same thing.
Yeah.
They are doing illegal data mining.
Yeah.
And of course, they're selling it to advertisers.
Total data collection.
Total.
Yeah.
Everything. They want you completely naked.
Les Moonves loses in court. This has to do with some media mergers and control. CBS votes to end Redstone control. Khan director walked out of Black Panther, hated Star Wars. Spielberg, DiCaprio to team on Ulysses S. Grant movie. North Korea turns on incompetent South. North Korea is trying to get out of that summit, I think.
Let's get into that one a little later.
Yeah. TV looking very Reagan era with revivals of Roseanne, Murphy Brown, Magnum P.I. Blast from the past. Chinese mass indoctrination camps evoke cultural revolution. The peso plunge. This is Argentina. Collapse of currency dredges up old frustrations and threatens Argentina president. Yeah, they've asked for infusion from the IMF already. We'll have to see if that spreads to other countries. Bill Gates swipes at Trump in leaked video. Welcome to the new Gilded Age. $500 million mansion, neighbors homeless encampment. 51 million households struggle with rent and food. Childbirth rates drop to 30-year low. Protesters interrupt Chicago Commission vote on Obama Center. Obama's trying to build a library, or actually maybe a temple to himself, but it's not going very well.
Oh my gosh, right, an altar.
Yes.
An altar to himself is what he's doing. That's a good description of it.
Pope's sweeping critique of global finance. Warns of ticking time bomb. Starbucks is accused of racism again. Latino receives cup with Beaner label. Pulitzer Prize winner ditches journalism to work at hot dog joint. Decided to make an honest living, I guess.
There you go.
ABC set for Michael Jackson's special, never before seen interviews. TSS watch list for unruly travelers sparks privacy fears. They're making a new list. Oh boy. Pentagon can tell who you are about how you hold your phone. Oil hits $80. Talked yesterday, I think, the King did, about oil going up.
Ooh, yeah. Jerry Salente said if it goes over 100, it's going to crash. The economy's going to crash.
And Sauds show no mercy. Mideast conflict.
Basically, if oil prices hit that high, everything is more expensive.
That's
Extraction of oil, travel, business, manufacturing, food.
Because, trucks bring our food to us, right?
Yeah, trucks have to go back and forth.
And not just food, but because everything has fuel costs in it. Yeah.
So he's just going to tank the economy.
Mideast conflicts connected by vying power brokers. Assad travels to Russia. Internet phones cut off as Iran protests continue. Yes, in the southern part of Iran, there's some pretty violent protests going on, and their protests are going on pretty much around the country right now.
It's exploding, isn't it?
It's simmers coming to a boil. Yes, anti-American cleric power grows in Iraq, upends Pentagon plans. Yep. FM radio faces switch off in UK as digital listening passes 50% milestone. High school basketball star turned out to be a 25-year-old man. Age 94, golfer playing final round hits first hole-in-one. Lord knew, he gave it to me. Sounds like a movie script. Trump to cut Planned Parenthood funding. Administration will announce today. Well, it's not all Planned Parenthood funding, but it's a small part of it. But anyway, it's a step. It's a step, baby steps.
Step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's in the right direction. It's baby steps. This is something that Reagan did, Clinton canceled, and then Bush's didn't do anything about it. So now Trump is reviving what Reagan did. Eruption at Kilauea summit sends ash plumes miles into the air, 30,000 feet into the sky. Nancy Pelosi gibberish, bizarre laughing stares off during brain freeze. California resistance to Trump includes at least 32 lawsuits. White House, U.S. choking on 10.7 legal immigrants. And the Arizona border ranchers living in fear. And city bans sitting and lying on sidewalks. Garcetti, that's the mayor of Los Angeles, almost ready, taps Hollywood to fuel 2020. He's thinking of running for president. Trump billboard battle heats up again. This Ukraine dolphin story has been on the Drudge for I don't know how many days now. At least 3 or 4, I think. Many Drudge likes animal stories, and I guess he likes this one especially. Anyway, the dolphin army of Ukraine is on hunger strike. And a kindergarten teacher finds a bag of crack in the mouth of a girl. Want to listen to police scanners? Cops say no more. And lawmaker accused of choking challenger in restaurant. That's one way of doing it.
Vote for me. All right, here is Sarah Sanders. Liberals and media are welcome to defend. Okay, it's not showing the title. This is White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders reacting when Trump recently called immigrants animals. She said he was clearly referring to violent MS-13 gang members, adding, frankly, I don't think the term the president used is strong enough. Let's take a listen.
Intention of changing it. Steve? I just want to ask you, because so many people in the country have been talking about it in the last 24 hours, what did the president mean when he said that some immigrants are not people, they're animals?
The president was very clearly referring to MS-13 gang members who enter the country illegally and whose deportations are hamstrung by our laws. This is one of the most vicious and deadly gangs that operates by the motto of rape, control, and kill. If the media and liberals want to defend MS-13, they're more than welcome to. Frankly, I don't think the term that the president used was strong enough. MS-13 has done heinous acts. It took an animal to stab a man 100 times and decapitate him and rip his heart out. It took an animal to beat a woman they were sex trafficking with a bat 28 times, indenting part of her body. And it took an animal to kidnap, drug, and rape a 14-year-old Houston girl. Frankly, I think that the term animal doesn't go far enough, and I think that the president should continue to use his platform and everything he can do under the law to stop these types of horrible, horrible, disgusting people. I'm going to take...
Good, there you go. CBS News, Stephen Point. Okay, there it is, explaining. And this is the context. This is the context where Trump uses it.
Okay, Margaret.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, sheriffs in California are now in an untenable position when it comes to trying to figure out now. We have state law, we have federal laws, and here we are stuck in the middle. Sheriffs especially, because most of us run our county jails. When there became a legal challenge to the 48-hour holds for ICE, it was very frustrating for us. So what I did is I invited ICE to put their officers in my jail so they're able to do their work. We didn't have the staffing to be able to help figure out who they wanted to talk to, who they didn't. I said, come on in, work with our people to keep our community safe. 2 weeks later, Mr. President, Kate Steinle was murdered. Yeah. Now, I wasn't the only sheriff to do that. Sheriff Youngblood did, Sheriff Christensen, and it was perfect because we didn't have to take our time with our staff to do anything. ICE was in there doing their work in a safe, controlled environment, and then the initiatives started happening. The Trust Act, the Truth Act, and finally SB 54, the Values Act. And that is causing us all kinds of turmoil. So here we are, stuck in the middle, trying to decide. We have federal law, we have state law, and that's why I welcomed Attorney General Sessions' lawsuit, because that will provide us clarity that we need and direction that we need. What do we do? Because here we are. And I appreciated Mr. Holman and the ICE. We had a great relationship. We still do. But now ICE is the only law enforcement agency that cannot use our databases to find the bad guys. They cannot come in and talk to people in our jail unless they reach a certain threshold. They can't do all kinds of things that other law enforcement agencies can do. And it's really put us in a very bad position. It's a disgrace.
And we're suing on that, and we're working hard, and I think it'll all come together. Because people want it to come together. It's so ridiculous. The concept that we're even talking about it is so ridiculous. We'll take care of it, Margaret.
Thank you. There could be an MS-13 gang member I know about. If they don't reach a certain threshold, I cannot tell ICE about them.
Yeah. We have people coming into the country, or trying to come in. We're stopping a lot of them. But we're taking people out of the country. You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people. These are animals. And we're taking them out of the country at a level and at a rate that's never happened before. And because
of clearly in the context of talking about MS-13, and here's Trump saying, nope, not going to apologize for that.
Sir, could you clarify the context of your use of the word animal yesterday and referring
Yeah.
to some people who
Well, it has nothing to do with this meeting, but I'm referring, and you know I'm referring, to the MS-13 gangs that are coming in. And I was talking about the MS-13, and also, and if you look a little bit further on in the tape, you'll see that. So I'm actually surprised you're asking this question, because most people got it right. But I'm saying the MS-13, you don't have that where you come from. MS-13, these are animals. They're coming into our country, we're getting them out. They come in again, we're getting them out. We need strong immigration laws. We have the weakest laws in the entire world. We have laws that are laughed at on immigration. So when the MS-13 comes in, when the other gang members come into our country, I refer to them as animals. And guess what? I always will. But we're getting them out by the thousands. But it's a big, dangerous job. And they're able, in some cases, to come back in, or new groups come in, also from the gangs. Thank you.
Mr. President.
There he goes, very clearly talking about MS-13.
Yeah, the media is helping Trump on this. Yeah.
What total idiots. Let's look at Paul Joseph Watson's breakdown on this and mocking the idiot liberal lunatic left.
Donald Trump has finally confirmed what an evil, racist bigot he truly is by calling all illegal immigrants animals. Except that didn't happen. Here's the clip where he was specifically asked by a sheriff about murderous MS-13 gang members.
There can be an MS-13 gang member I know about. If they don't reach a certain threshold, I cannot tell ICE about them.
We have people coming into the country, or trying to come in. We're stopping a lot of them. But we're taking people out of the country. You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people. These are animals. And we're taking them out of the country at a level and at a rate that's never happened before.
The context of the discussion is clearly about murderous MS-13 gang members.
MS-13 gang member.
But wait, you think the media cares about context? You think the media cares about truth? Why bother with truth when you can defend brutal drug cartels that rape, murder and dismember people to own the drumpf?
These aren't people, these are animals. Trump speaking in California about undocumented immigrants.
Very nice words, but happens to be wrong.
MS-13 gang member.
And there you have it. What lies beneath Trump's horrific agenda is the same dehumanizing mentality that has enabled war and genocide.
Trump calling gang members who murder babies animals is enabling war and genocide? Shut up, you complete spoon. The Guardian's Hannah Jane Parkinson left out the part of the video about MS-13 gang members, then tweeted,
Trump just verbatim referred to some immigrants as animals. These aren't people, these are animals. Fuck everyone who voted for him and everyone who continued to appease him.
He was talking about MS-13 gang members. It's in the video.
MS-13 gang member, MS-13 gang member, MS-13 gang member.
And you call yourself a feminist? MS-13 gang members literally rape and dismember women.
This is disgusting, and his evangelical sycophants will applaud his utter dehumanization of men, women and children.
Gee, I wonder how many women and children are members of MS-13. Is it more or less than the numbers of women and children that MS-13 has massacred in cold blood?
When all of our great-great-grandparents came to America, they weren't animals, and these people aren't either.
So Chuck Schumer's great-great-grandparents were drug-dealing, murdering gang members. Who knew?
How the fuck isn't this a breaking news story? The President of the United States calling immigrants animals. He's acting like it's just the criminals, but he really means all immigrants. I'm fucking disgusted!
Wrong.
He's not acting like it was just the criminals. The criminals are the subject of the conversation, you utter clown.
MS-13 gang member, MS-13 gang member, MS-13 gang member.
I could go on forever with these. New York Times, Daily Beast, MSNBC anchor Andrea Mitchell, NBC News reporter Benji Sarlin. All lying, all stripping out the context, and not a single retraction. This idiot even posted photos of children to make out as if Trump had called kids animals.
Wrong.
However repugnant their actions, MS-13 gang members are human beings.
Wrong.
Human beings don't tear out people's hearts and behead them. What would be a more appropriate word for those who did that?
Animals.
Sure, but even referring to gang members as animals is dehumanizing and helps reinforce support for authoritarian measures.
Wrong. Wrong.
Thugs who rape women and massacre children, an MS-13 speciality, are animals. The fact that the left wants us to have sympathy for them tells you everything. Sympathising with criminal thugs who've killed 200 people in the US alone since 2012. Is this how Democrats plan to attract new voters? Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck. Don't forget, this arrives after nearly a full week of the media and the Democrats claiming that Hamas terrorists trying to invade Israel were innocent protesters, despite a senior Hamas official admitting that the vast majority of those killed were members of Hamas. If Trump had called terrorists animals in the context of a discussion about ISIS and Islamic terrorism, would the media claim that he had called all Muslims animals? Yeah, they probably would. And the media still wonders why they're hated. They still wonder why their trustworthiness is in the toilet. If your hatred for Trump extends to defending Hamas terrorists and murdering MS-13 gang members, chances are Trump is not the problem. Chances are the problem is you.
Animals.
There you go, Paul Joseph Watson breaking it down again in the very unique way that he always does. Trump tells media, I'll always call MS-13 animals. Again, exposing the fake news media. It's so ridiculous that we have to even clarify this. It's an absurd circus. It's a ridiculous show. But look at this. AP issues a retraction, deletes Trump animal tweet. MSM admits he was speaking about MS-13. The Associated Press deleted his tweet that falsely claimed Trump's animal comment was directed at all illegals crossing the border. They've been now admitting that they were sensationalizing. AP's Thursday correction admits it's not clear that the president was specifically referencing the violent MS-13 gang. AP has deleted a tweet from late Wednesday on Trump's animals comment about immigrants because it wasn't made clear that he was speaking after a comment about gang members. So AP actually is trying to be honest about it. Now deleted tweet that 12.8 million followers originally saw said Trump described all illegals crossing the border as animals, a statement that AP is now backing away from. This is the original quote. Trump referred to those crossing U.S. border illegally as animals and slammed California sanctuary state laws as deadly. You can see, again, the news is always filtered through the individuals that are transmitting that news. And, of course, here it is these enemies of the United States, enemies of President Trump, enemies of freedom and sovereignty, total control for centralized political Satanists is what they are. Not that they actually worship a metaphysical entity called the devil or Satan, but they have given their soul over to the system of evil and power cult of wickedness. So, unbelievable. Kellyanne Conway scolded the media who took the president's word out of context and said they owed him an apology. Will he get an apology? Of course not. Others rushed to judgment to get the president rather than to get the story. POTUS and the grieving loved ones who've lost family members to gang violence an apology.
Well, I think the media is helping the president.
They're exposing themselves.
Yeah, like, they give Sarah Sanders an opportunity to make that kind of basically she had a prepared statement there because she knew this question was going to come up. And so she read it out and the media had to shut up. That was great.
Again, they're totally exposing themselves for being totally fake news.
Yes.
Talk about biased news, my golly.
Yes.
Ridiculous. CNN tweeted, we're taking people out of the country. You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people, these are animals, during a meeting with public officials who oppose California's sanctuary policies. As reported in the article above, Trump's remarks late Wednesday were in response to comments about members of MS-13. They admitted, they admitted after they got caught and exposed, and they got called out for it. They finally had to put it in, like pretending as if they were being honest from the very beginning, which of course they were not, because the way they phrased it makes Trump look like he's blanket statement racistly saying all immigrants are animals, which he's not saying. He's saying the MS-13 MS-13 gang members are animals, which they are.
Tucker Carlson.
What a joke.
Tucker Carlson.
Let's check Tucker Carlson's. Go ahead. Let's go to Tim Elder and Tucker Carlson.
Okay, this is Breitbart's story on that. Thursday on Fox News Channel's Tucker Carlson Tonight, host Tucker Carlson challenged Democrats that objected to President Donald Trump's remarks earlier this week about the gang MS-13. Carlson said the inspiration for that backlash aimed at Trump for those comments was that it challenged the left's view on immigration, an idea that all immigrants are good. Why would the left be defending the country's most violent street gang, Carlson said. Trump has made them irrational. That is part of it. But the left also senses a threat to its basic worldview. MS-13 is a living reminder that the left's position on immigration is fundamentally a lie. The media tell you every day that every immigrant, legal or not, is a future brain surgeon or tech company founder. Therefore, immigration controls are unnecessary. If they admit MS-13 is bad and must be stopped, they'd have to also admit that when some countries send their people here, they aren't sending their best, he continued. A lot of immigrants are great for sure. Some are rapists, though. Some join MS-13. That's just true. They aren't all the same because people aren't all the same. That's the point of our immigration law. They're not the same. We should sort the good from the bad. That was Tucker Carlson.
Look at that. Oh, did he dare say good and the bad?
No, yes.
In this world, you can't say anything's bad. Everything is just, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. You know, your children being raped and dismembered and getting their hearts cut out. Well, that's just all good. You know, good people did that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just they're misunderstood. That's all.
Just misunderstood. Bad childhood.
Misunderstood good people. Yes. You know, you have some sympathy. You know, never mind the people whose carotid arteries got slashed in half and they're bleeding out and blood stains all over the place and beheaded young babies. You know, you gotta have understanding. These people, you know, they're frustrated, okay, and you know they're angry, okay. So they're just killing a couple people. I mean, just 200 plus people, you know, in the last couple of years.
Culture misunderstanding.
You know, you can't culture appropriate here. Okay?
Yes. I mean, you know, in some cultures it's okay to murder people
and eat people. You know,
and eat people. Take out their hearts.
You know, it's normal to just be walking down the street and seeing decapitated bodies just hanging from trees. You know, that's shouldn't America be a little more tolerant? I mean, what's wrong with them not accepting MS-13 as the presidency? You know, maybe we should give them the White House. You know, and give them control of all law enforcement. How's that?
Yes. Yes.
Boy, that would, you know, then we'd really be showing we're tolerant. We're tolerant.
Yes.
Oh my Lord, give me a freaking break.
But the left is really exposing itself. This is good.
Golly, leftists, they're mentally ill. They're totally mentally ill. Giuliani puts the corrupt Mueller team on notice. We're ready to rip them apart if that's what they want. Former federal prosecutor in New York City, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, was on Laura Ingram's The Ingram Angle on Fox News last night. Rudy and all of America know there is no collusion between President Trump and Russia, and so Rudy encouraged the corrupt Mueller team to wrap it up. Rudy discussed the corrupt Mueller investigation that has now been going on for a year. At the beginning of the below segment of the interview, Rudy stated the guys on the Mueller team are taking so long because maybe these guys, you know, figure they can't get a job done. Rudy was outstanding, and he never let up. At the end of the interview, at the 9:10 mark in the video below, Rudy addressed the crooked Mueller team straight on. Ingram, timeline. What is your optimal timeline for this to wrap up? Rudy, they should do it today. I mean, as soon as possible. I think they have the facts from which they can write their report. You can write a fair report, fine, then write it. If you're going to write an unfair report, write it, and we will combat it. We're ready to rip it apart. We're ready to rip them apart if that's what they want. We'd rather peacefully settle this and get it over with. Let's take a look.
Welcome back to the Ingram Angle. Now more of my exclusive interview with the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani.
Even buried in the New York Times, a big New York Times piece today, is a little nugget that you have to kind of search for, Rudy, that says nothing publicly disclosed ties the Trump campaign or the president himself to these nefarious dealings with the Russians. That's, again, you have to kind of look past the headline all the way to that.
That's been true from day one. It's true today. They're not going to be able to invent any evidence of that. And it's a shame that they have, plus they won't answer Congress on how much money this is costing the American people. It's costing us a fortune. Maybe these guys, you know, figure they can't get a good job.
You get the sense that they are going to focus in on some type of obstruction claim. And we're sitting around.
To do what? To recommend impeachment? I mean, they don't get to do that. I mean, they get to send a report to Rosenstein on what they found. I guess they could gratuitously include a recommendation, but really they shouldn't.
Or the facts that would indicate the facts amounting to the elements of the crime.
We could produce a memo for him that rebuts them all 1,000%.
Well, and it would be probably either about the Trump Tower meeting. There's still confusion there. A lot of
which he wasn't present at.
Right. But he wasn't present at. But then Don Trump Jr. The transcript notes of his talk with Capitol Hill came out today. Senate committee released the notes, and he said he did not have a memory about talking to his father with it specifically. Then they're focusing on this blocked call that he made that day, and he doesn't remember if it was to his father or not. I mean, that's the theory that they're spinning out. And
since I believe it took place in the office, it would have been very easy for him to
June of 2016.
Yeah. Also, remember June of 2016. That's about when I joined the campaign. Nobody's going to focus on a Russian woman who says that she has information about Hillary. Turns out she wants to negotiate sanctions, and they throw her out basically. And then when she wants to meet again, they don't meet with her. I would remember that. But I had people coming up to me saying all kinds of things about Hillary, and I'm willing to believe almost anything about her. And I used to get rid of them.
Well, the headlines today, CNN, Don Jr. admits he was looking for dirt on Hillary from the Russians.
Wow. And they weren't looking for dirt on Donald Trump?
Only the dossier.
When I ran against them, they were looking for dirt on me every day. I mean, that's what you do. Maybe you shouldn't, but you do it. Nothing illegal about that. And even if it comes from a Russian or a German or an American, it doesn't matter. And they never used it. It's the main thing. They never used it. They rejected it. If there was collusion with the Russians, they would have used it.
Do you think that in the end, when you look at all the main flashpoints, the Trump Tower meeting, the Stormy Daniels payment, the raid on Manafort, the raid on Cohen, is there any one part of that concerns you more than other parts of that?
Yeah, their inability to reach a conclusion that is obvious, and their unwillingness to recognize the damage this does to our country all over the world. There's no reason for this investigation. There never was a good reason for it in the first place. This was engineered by Comey with the report, not the report, the interview thing that he wrote that he should have never revealed, which he leaked illegally through a professor. I mean, nobody.
DOJ's releasing those documents, by the way, on that particular professor.
Comey should be under investigation.
Dan Richman.
And the Clinton people wanted him fired before we did for what he did to her. That was totally unethical. You know, it was totally unethical to reveal all the facts incriminating her.
What is that idiot Jeff Sessions doing?
Specious argument.
Fire that bozo.
Do you have any information or any sense, again, given your background?
Go after the damn criminal Clintons.
That there's any chance that Bob Mueller gave immunity to Jim Comey?
No, I don't. I have no idea if he gave him immunity. I don't know why he's not being investigated. That troubles us because a lot of the president's statements contradict Comey. They're much more logical than Comey's, but they contradict his. If you want to just believe Comey, then you're walking him into a trap. And Comey's not been investigated. So I don't think we would sit him down for an interview unless Comey was investigated and treated in the same way.
This guy, Jay Goldberg, I guess he was some former Trump lawyer. I've never heard of him, but he was
Jay Goldberg.
Yeah, Jay Goldberg.
I know Jay. I tried cases against him.
Okay, well, he said...
I told him that I didn't think that Giuliani was the right person for him to select. I thought that there were much better people that he could use in terms of negotiating with Mueller.
I guess I beat him too many times. Jay is getting a little old. There probably are better people. The only thing that I have is the president trusts me. And I trust the president. I have his back in the right way. I believe I would represent any president put through this kind of torture. This is not right for our country. That's why I'm doing this. I'm doing it pro bono, and I'm doing it because I believe that this is just plain wrong.
The family, the toll this takes on the family. You mentioned Ivanka before. You said Jared is disposable. I'm not sure that went over very well.
No, I was kidding around.
Okay, I don't know if it went over all that well.
Jared loved it. Jared loved it. He said, did my wife tell you to say that? And I said, no, but you are disposable, Jared. Men always, I'm disposable too.
You're not worried. You're not worried about exposure that he has because of that meeting with a Russian banker in December of 2016.
I cannot figure out why that meeting means what it means. First of all, none of it was about getting her emails. It was about dirty information they alleged to have. They didn't have it. So, end of story.
I'm talking about the meeting that Jared had with that Russian bank
I see.
in December of 2016.
That would be a totally different business thing. It has nothing to do with collusion with the Russians. Over the election's over at that point.
I think if you ordered a White Russian at the Russian tea room once, you'd be in trouble here.
I haven't been in Russia in 4 years or 5 years. Thank God.
Do you have any concern that there is no real way at this point to get a fair outcome by a special counsel that many very well-respected lawyers think was begun, named on spurious, fraudulent grounds?
Well, I'm confident that if we have to, we can get vindicated in court. I don't think we're going to have to, but I think we get vindicated in court. I'm still hopeful that when it comes down to it, they're not going to impair their reputations with a bogus report.
You're not going to court with the president, though. He's going to be interviewed. He's not going to be in court. He's going to be in Congress if it's referred.
Challenging the legitimacy of their investigatory authority and the way they've spanned out so much.
So you maintain that the expansion of this probe, as it's been expanded,
and the misconduct
is illegitimate.
What they did with Manafort, what they did with Michael Cohen, all of the illegitimate things they've done, possibly placing a spy in the Trump campaign. All these things are areas where indictments have been dismissed because of government misconduct. Some of these same people have done it. I do not understand what Bob was thinking of hiring these people.
Are you concerned about any of the former Trump White House staffers? I know Hope Hicks, her name was thrown around in working with Don Jr., maybe on the statement about the Trump Tower meeting. Are you worried about her conversations at all with the special counsel? I mean, these guys are young. These are young kids.
You mean 1,001 prosecutions?
Yeah.
Those are false statements that are not under oath. God, that would be really cheap.
Yeah.
That'd be like...
but he's turning the screws on people. As Judge Ellis said, he's turning the screws on people, not because he cares about Manafort, 2004, 2007 banking issues. He cares about getting at Trump. That's what he cares about.
How could Manafort's 2004, 2005 activity have anything to do with...
But Manafort's different from someone. I'm not saying anyone lied. I'm just saying Manafort's different from a 30-year-old or a 25-year-old who's like, I'm not going to lose my livelihood. You know how they operate. You were a prosecutor. This is what prosecutors do.
I work with Hope for under intense pressure.
She's fantastic.
She's not going to lie.
No. I'm just using as an example of any staffer who would be. You know what they can do. You know how they work. You said this here. I have an email. Look at this. I got an email here, and then all of a sudden you're shaking.
If they did that to her, then a Justice Department would have to step in and act because it would be just total injustice. And they've done a few injustices, but not quite as bad as that yet.
Timeline. What is your optimal timeline for this to wrap up?
They should do it today. I mean, as soon as possible. I think that they have the facts from which they can write their report. If you're going to write a fair report, fine, write it. If you're going to write an unfair report, write it, and we will combat it. We're ready to rip it apart. And we're ready to rip them apart if that's what they want. We would rather peacefully settle this and get it over with.
Rudy Giuliani.
Thank you.
Always great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
There you go. There's Rudy Giuliani breaking it down. The corruption of the Mueller team is outrageous. Let's now go to Tim for the North Korean story. Tim.
Okay. I've been saying that I think North Korea is under orders from China, from Xi Jinping, from Emperor Xi, to make this summit thing go away. I don't think China wants it to happen. And I think that's what we have today is another indication of that. North Korea says won't hold talks with incompetent South unless differences are settled. Won't talk with you, won't negotiate with you unless you do what we say. That's an interesting strategy. Out of Seoul, North Korea's chief negotiator called the South Korean government ignorant and incompetent on Thursday. Actually, that's probably one of the few true things that North Korea says. Denounced U.S.-South Korean air combat drills and threatened to halt all talks with the South unless its demands are met. The comments by Lee Song-kwon, chairman of the North Korea's Committee for the Peaceful Unification of the country, were the latest in a string of inflammatory statements marking a drastic change in tone after months of easing tension with plans for denuclearization and a summit scheduled with the United States. Ri criticized the South for participating in the drills as well as for allowing, quote, human scum, unquote, to speak at its National Assembly, the North's KCNA news agency said in a statement. Unless the serious situation which led to the suspension of the North-South high-level talks is settled, it will never be easy to sit face-to-face again with the present regime of South Korea, the statement said. It did not elaborate. KCA in its English language service deliberately uses lowercase North and South to show that it only recognizes one undivided Korea. North Korea on Wednesday said it might not attend the June 12th summit between leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump in Singapore if the United States continued to demand it unilaterally abandon its nuclear arsenal, which it has developed in defiance of UN Security Council resolutions to counter perceived U.S. hostility. A South Korean presidential Blue House official said the South intends to more actively perform the role of a mediator, in quotes, between the United States and North Korea, but that goal has been cast into doubt by Ri's comments. On this opportunity, Ri's statement said, the President's South Korean authorities have been clearly proven to be an ignorant and incompetent group devoid of the elementary sense of the present situation. The statement did not identify the human scum by name, but Tae Yong-ho, a former North Korean diplomat to Britain who defected to the South in 2016, held a press conference on Monday at the South Korean National Assembly for his publication of his memoir. And they generally refer to their defectors as human scum, so Reuters is probably right on that. In his memoir, Password from the Third Floor, Tae describes North Korean leader Kim as impatient, impulsive, and violent. South Korean Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa told Parliament that North Korea and the United States had differences of views over how to achieve denuclearization. Trump had acknowledged on Wednesday that it was unclear if the summit would go ahead. It is true that there are differences of opinion between the North and the United States on methods to accomplish denuclearization, Kang told lawmakers, according to the Yonhap News Agency. Trump will host South Korean President Moon Jae-in at the White House on May 22nd. The Blue House intends to sufficiently convey to the United States what we've discerned about North Korea's position and attitude, and sufficiently convey to the United States position to North Korea, thereby helping to bridge the gap, the official said. Asked if he trusted Kim Jong-un, South Korean Foreign Minister Kang said yes. Of course, the whole regime is leftist, and basically he doesn't just trust him, but loves him and follows him. Japan's Asahi newspaper reported that the United States had demanded North Korea ship some nuclear warheads and intercontinental ballistic missile and other nuclear material overseas within 6 months. The newspaper, citing several sources familiar with North Korea, said U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo appeared to have told the North Korean leader when they met this month that Pyongyang might be removed from a list of state sponsors of terrorism if it complied. The Asahi also reported that if North Korea agreed to complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization at the Singapore summit, Washington was considering giving guarantees for Kim's regime. China's top diplomat Wang Yi said the measures North Korea has taken to ease tensions should be acknowledged and that all other parties, especially the United States, should cherish the opportunity for peace. Cancellation of the summit, the first between U.S., North Korea, and North Korean leaders, would deal a major blow to what could be the biggest diplomatic achievement of Trump's presidency. This comes at a time his withdrawal from Iran nuclear deal has drawn criticism internationally, and moving the U.S. Embassy to Seoul, to Israel and Jerusalem has fueled deadly violence against the Israel-Gaza border. So anyway, to give a background there, North has said it is open to eventually giving up its nuclear arsenal if the United States withdraws its troops from South Korea and ends its nuclear umbrella alliance with Seoul. This is what I've been saying, see? The North North and U.S. are talking about two different things. U.S. wants denuclearization of North Korea. North wants the course withdrawal of U.S. troops, also the nuclear umbrella. Wants that was to Korean Peninsula to be removed from that. That's what China wants, of course, so that it can take over the Korean Peninsula. North Korea said it was pulling out of the talks with South Korea after denouncing U.S.-South Korean Max Thunder air combat drills, which it said involved U.S. stealth fighters, B-52 bombers, and nuclear assets. And then also, it doesn't say here, but there was an article in the Chosun Ilbo that the South Korean defense minister told the U.S. that it may not deploy B-52 bombers in South Korean airspace. That was on Wednesday. So basically, doing what North Korea wanted. Speaking to reporters in Brussels on Wednesday, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, "I hope that in the end, common sense will prevail and the summit will take place and will be successful." Okay. Well, yeah, when we're seeing what, beginning in February with the Olympics, there was this whole, charm offensive by North Korea, and now they're using the charm that they've built up. Now they're leveraging that to back out of this summit and make it appear as if the United States is responsible, Trump is responsible. And that the purpose in doing that is to drive a wedge between the South Korean public opinion and the United States, so as to build more political pressure in South Korea to withdraw U.S. forces from South Korea. I'm saying that whatever scenario plays out, U.S. forces in South Korea, I think, better go ahead and just start packing their bags. Okay, well, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, but they're not going to be in South Korea for much longer. If there's a peace agreement, if everything works out and everybody goes home happy, then that will undermine the purpose for having U.S. forces in South Korea. So they'll be withdrawn.
Well, it'll be a red Korea.
If there is no peace agreement and things break down, then the U.S. will be blamed. South Korean public opinion will turn against, even more against U.S. forces in Korea, and they'll be withdrawn. So no matter which way the scenario goes, U.S. forces in South Korea will be withdrawn, and that'll make it easier for President Trump to strike North Korea militarily. Because basically, like, you have a terrorist with hostages in a bank. You take the hostages out, then you send in the SWAT team. Right now, the U.S. forces in South Korea are the hostages. I think we're going to see war in the South Korean Peninsula, on the Korean Peninsula, no matter which way it goes.
Well, we'll be right back after this. Stay with us. We'll end on those words. See you right back after this break.
Not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. Faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall.
사람들에게 만사에 형통할 수 있는
And the kingdom of God and his citizens are kings and queens that stand with the King of Kings and his kingship, that rule with the rod of iron in peace, justice, and mercy. Citizens are ours.
Now, the Rod of Iron Ministries, which is another offshoot of this church.
This is a satanic antichrist devil. These are not real Christians.
This is a cult.
We're very much opposed to it.
We don't worship government, we worship God.
How many of you feel safer knowing that your teacher has a gun? All of you.
We need to turn back to God.
Not to be dependent on the government.
Revelation 3:11, let no man take thy crown, hold fast to what God hath. Folks, welcome back to King's Report, Friday, May 18, 2018. Second King Report reported live from the Cheonggyeong studios. To all the kings and queens of the Kingdom of God, good morning, folks. It's 6:04 a.m. And we are here at Joel Skousen's discussion of his uncle's work. Uncle is Cleon Skousen, and his work, The Naked Capitalist. And of course, discussing the 45 goals to communism, which we only see a part of yesterday, but which they go much more detail in this breakdown. Let's take a look.
When you look at these goals, look at it through the eyes of globalists helping and facilitating communists. Number one, that they should coexist with communism rather than have atomic war. That was a globalist thing. Containment, number two, to contain that was the doctrine of George Kennan, who was a globalist, not a communist. And so you see globalists facilitating all of these doctrines. Developing in number three, the notion of total disarmament by the U.S. would be the highest moral standard. And of course, your nuclear freeze people were very much associated with the Communist Party, and were a lot of communists involved in the anti-nuclear movement. And, you know, they would promote in number four, free trade between all nations, and we shouldn't exclude communists from free trade. So it wasn't really free trade. It was facilitating trade with communists so that you could, you know, share technology with them, is what we did all through China and Russia's history. Yep. Number five was extend long-term loans to Russia and the Soviet satellites. Now, you can see, obviously, the communists would be in favor of this, but the globalists were also in favor of this as well. Number six was to provide American aid to all nations, regardless of communist domination. Same thing like long-term loans, aid. You don't want to be prejudiced against communists. Number seven was grant recognition of Red China and admit Red China to the UN and oust Taiwan. I mean, it's one thing to admit Red China, but why oust Free China, Taiwan? And why give Red China a seat on the Security Council, a permanent seat with a permanent veto? That's got to be for conflict creation purposes and to make sure that China and Russia can stop any actual freedom agenda. And that's exactly what they did.
Joining us for the balance of the hour is Joel Skousen, editor of worldaffairsbrief.com. And I wanted to get him on because his uncle, Cleon Skousen, basically researched and developed the goals of communism from some of their own documents and public statements that got read into the record in 1963. And when you read the goals of communism and you see how much of it has actually been achieved, it is stunning. So we reposted this to Infowars.com. Read the secret 45 goals of communism leaked to Congress in 1963. In the early 1960s, U.S. intelligence obtained the 45 goals communist internationals intended to carry out to destroy Western civilization and Christianity. And Joel Skousen joins us to get into this because his uncle helped expose it and how the ultra-rich want command and control. They're making a lot of money right now off the collapse of Venezuela. And then later in the hour, we can tie it into current events and things that are unfolding. But going back to the 60s and the Naked Communist and W. Cleon Skousen and your uncle, and now where we are today, it's just amazing.
Well, the first point I want to make, Alex, is that my uncle wrote this in the early 60s based upon his research as assistant to J. Edgar Hoover administrative assistant at the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. But he had not yet discovered the globalist conspiracy yet. To him, everything looked like a communist conspiracy. And as I've gone through these 45 goals in preparation for your show today, it's very interesting because from our perspective now, and even if Cleon were alive today, he died in 2006, if he were alive today, he would agree with me that these goals, in fact, were globalist goals, not exclusive communist goals. And the reason they got pushed through the Communist Party is the globalists were using communists to break down the social order, to break down various countries like Nicaragua and Cuba and Red China. But these were actually engineered by globalists. And that's why, even though most of them have not been implemented by actual communists, they have happened because the globalists have continued to do that, even after they dismantled the House Committee on Un-American Activities, even though they got rid of McCarthy. These goals kept going forward because these are globalist goals which share a great commonality with communism. But he realized that it was much broader than just the communist conspiracy, and there were these wealthy capitalists that were controlling the communists, or at least facilitating them coming into the United States. And those communists themselves thought that the globalists were one of them, but they weren't. They were secretly facilitating it and then planning on discarding communism later on after.
And then along comes, years later, in the late 60s, Quigley, from the globalist perspective, just certifying from the inside, 1,100 pages, everything that your uncle has said.
That's exactly right. And so the book, The Naked Capitalist, really is a critique of Carroll Quigley's book. Who was a professor at Georgetown. Georgetown is full of globalists. Even today, they're the ones that teach at the National War College and indoctrinate all of our military officers so that they turn out to be globalists. Anybody who gets to be a general or an admiral has to say yes to those systems. And so it's only natural when you look at these goals, look at it through the eyes of globalists helping and facilitating communists. Number one, that they should coexist with communism rather than have atomic war. That was a globalist thing. Containment, number two, to contain that was the doctrine of George Kennan, who was a globalist, not a communist. And so you see globalists facilitating all of these doctrines. Developing in number three, the notion of total disarmament by the U.S. would be the highest moral standard. And of course, your nuclear freeze people were very much associated with the Communist Party, and were a lot of communists involved in the anti-nuclear movement, but they were being used by the globalists who also wanted...
And that ties into the 7277.
That's exactly right. And, they would promote in number four, free trade between all nations, and we shouldn't exclude communists from free trade. So it wasn't really free trade. It was facilitating trade with communists so that you could share technology with them, is what we did all through China and Russia's history. Number five was extend long-term loans to Russia and the Soviet satellites. Now you can see, obviously, the communists would be in favor of this, but the globalists were also in favor of this as well. Number six was to provide American aid to all nations, regardless of communist domination. Same thing like long-term loans, aid. You don't want to be prejudiced against communists. Number seven was grant recognition of Red China and admit Red China to the UN and oust Taiwan. I mean, it's one thing to admit Red China, but why oust Free China, Taiwan? And why give Red China a seat on the Security Council, a permanent seat with a permanent veto? That's got to be for conflict creation purposes and to make sure that China and Russia can stop any actual freedom agenda. And that's exactly what they did. Number eight was to set up East and West Germany as separate states, in spite of Khrushchev's promise in 1955 to settle the German question by free elections. And number nine was promote the conferences to ban atomic tests, and that got through, but that was a globalist agenda as well. Number 10 was to allow all Soviet satellite countries individual representation in the UN. That was passed, but by globalists, not necessarily by communists. And of course, they are free now, most of those states now, and still members of the UN. But I still contend that most of those have puppet governments that are owing to the Soviets, just like Poland and Czechoslovakia under Václav Havel were communist agents. Going to point number 11, they want to promote the UN as the only hope for mankind. And if its charter is rewritten, demand that they set it up as a one-world government with its own independent armed forces. Now, that won't happen and hasn't happened yet, but that's what World War III is all about. And absorbing a nuclear first strike on U.S. military forces so that our globalist leaders can come out of their bunkers and induce everyone to join a militarized global government. That's point number 11. That's a globalist point. Remember that the communists have never really promoted the UN as its only hope for mankind. They want to form their own type of new world order under communist control. China wants to form their own. So they're competing against the Western globalists who want this form, the most sophisticated, deceiving form, because you see, only the globalists are sophisticated enough to tell people you're still free, you still have democracy, you still have individual rights, like they do in the EU Constitution. But then there are all these exceptions built in. Number 12 is resisting any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party. This is all about the censorship thing. The liberals are very good about saying, we don't want to ban anybody, but when it comes to Alex Jones and InfoWars, they do want to ban you. In other words, communists are okay, but the ultra-right, the extremists as they call us, that's never okay, and we will face a ban just as we are in Germany.
And we're not really what they even call ultra-right. Aren't we just traditional nationalists?
Yes, they're against that too. They're against anyone who's in favor of Western, promoting Western civilization or culture. You can have a Black Power club at high school. You can have a Latino club. You can have you can use black, you can use Latino, you can use every name except white. You cannot have anything that promotes the Caucasian culture or race. Number 13, they want to do away with loyalty oaths. Now, that loyalty oaths came about because of the McCarthy era and taking a loyalty oath. But, we still have the constitutional oath. Unfortunately, it is not being enforced. Nobody has been prosecuted for violating the Constitution. It's just a hollow form of an oath that we use today. Number 14, continue giving Russia access to the U.S. Patent Office. That was a globalist goal because that's how they gave Russia technology secrets without directly transferring the technology.
And look at China today. They take it the day it's posted there.
That's exactly right. Number 15, capture one or both political parties in the U.S. Now, the communists never did this, but the globalists, of course, have done both. They've captured both the Democratic and Republican parties and run them, as Party A and Party B, but they're both globalist parties. Number 16, use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions. This is done through the ACLU, Fabian Socialists, and others, which started out as outright communist fronts and now have a more, mainstream view. But in point of fact, they have controlled now the actual courts, and not because the judges themselves are communists, but they are globalists. And those that aren't globalists that are under control or under blackmail. They have a tremendous amount of blackmail of judges to keep them in control, especially those who are ostensibly conservatives in the Supreme Court, like Justice Roberts and Justice Thomas. They have ample blackmail on them to turn them, as they did Justice Roberts in the Obamacare decision. Number 17, get control of the schools. Well, frankly, the communists have not got control of the schools, but the globalists certainly have. And that's been going on ever since the founding of the public school movement. Was meant to take it away from private hands, take it away from...
And a great example is Bill Gates. They use the government running it to ruin it, and then have the new corporate takeover that's even worse, which is the globalization of schools.
That's exactly right. Gain control, number 18, of all student newspapers. Well, there really aren't a lot of communists except in a few major Ivy League universities, but it's hard to tell the difference between a hardcore communist and a hardcore leftist. Number 19 is something communists are very deeply involved and still are to this day, and that is using a student protest. Anytime George Soros wants to gin up a protest against Trump or immigration or gun control, he calls the communist organizers who bring out the student protest. And of course, there's a lot of follow-on people in in the public schools because they're all trained in liberalism and in colleges. So it's very easy to go beyond communist cadres. Those are the core people that they still use to gin up protests. Number 20 is infiltrate the press. That's something the globalists have done much more than the communists. Same thing with 21, which is gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. There were communist-oriented people. A lot of those were soft communists, not outright communist organizers. And the left, of course, is predominant in all the media here. And it's not just the left-wing media. It really is a pro-government media, which means it's controlled by the globalist control system, the deep state, if you will. CIA pays for a lot of journalists up to $50,000 a year. They pay off judges. They collect these payoffs at casinos oftentimes in chips so that they can launder these bribes to judges. Number 22 through 24 talk about discrediting and destroying American Western culture. While that's a communist goal, that's also a globalist goal. That's what creating conflict and driving Muslim refugees into Europe is all about. That's what's driving Latin Americans to the United States, not so much because they're that much different in culture, but because it waters down the conservative voting values. But, you know, you control art critics, you control and get rid of laws controlling obscenity, and you loosen up censorship when it comes to communism, but then you tighten down censorship when it comes to the right wing, which we're seeing and talking about today. Promoting pornography, 25, that's been done. You know, a lot of these things like obscenity and pornography, there's a tremendous amount of satanic influence in the lives of people that promotes this. You don't have to be a communist to get on this bandwagon for promoting the libertine lifestyle and the pornography. I mean, there's a natural man incentive to go that direction. This combined with the next goals, 27, 28, and 29, about eliminating religion eliminating prayer in schools and religious expressions by government. This is very much the dumbing down of religion, and a lot of it's voluntary. Pastor Chuck Baldwin has been very vocal about the fact that the mainstream churches just won't take a stand. But you know, the goals 29 and 30 discredit the U.S. Constitution as old-fashioned and discredit the Founding Fathers. That's really been taken over by the liberals in the universities. The globalists aren't trying anymore to get rid of the Constitution. They are content to control the Constitution through legal interpretation. Of course, you have control of teachers of American history so that you distort American history and culture and refuse to talk about the things that really enhance the Second Amendment or the Christian base of American culture. All that was a communist goal, and it's also a globalist goal. Number 32 is support any socialist movement to give government more centralized control in social agencies, welfare programs especially, drawing upon the heartstrings of Americans to give, and internationally as well, even though we're essentially bankrupt as a nation. Number 34 eliminated the House Committee on Un-American Activities. They did do that. That was through American liberals, not through the communists themselves. Number 35 has not happened, discredited and eventually dismantled the FBI. Basically, the deep state took over the FBI, as we've seen with Comey and Mueller and even now with Christopher Wray, an insider in the FBI. They did not dismantle it and don't intend to dismantle it because they've now co-opted the FBI and made it a tool of the deep state. Infiltrate and control more unions. Yes, that occurred in spades. Unions used to be especially totally controlled by communist front organizations. Now they're simply, deep into corruption, not necessarily communism. Number 37, they did not gain control of big business, but the globalists did. Goal number 38 was to transfer some of the arrest powers of police to social agencies. Now, while that hasn't happened, what has happened is a subsidiary of that goal to treat all behavioral problems as psychiatric orders, to give psychiatrists more power to incarcerate people for psychiatric. That's a thing that the communists were very, very good at, the Soviet agency. We're heading towards that. And the left does dominate the psychiatric profession. Psychiatrists refuse to talk about the key things that really understand human behavioral problems. One, the innateness of the spirit of the man, which comes from certain predispositions, some good and some evil, the workings of conscience and how Satan and the Lord interact with people and how they reject the Lord sometimes and get taken over by satanic influence, especially suicide or use a gun to commit crimes, etc. Those are something that psychiatrists cannot cure society's ills or even analyze them correctly without understanding the role of conscience and the role of Satan to speak to people's minds, which they do not accept, fortunately.
He's very spiritual.
Discredit the family as an institution, number 40, and make a divorce easy. That has happened through liberals, not necessarily through communists. Emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents, goal number 41. Now, that is a communist goal, but that has not and will not be implemented directly in the United States. But the role of the public schools in basically taking over the raising of children and indoctrinating them and schooling them and making them susceptible to homosexuality, that's happening. And that is a globalist goal that has been accomplished. Unlike communist countries, they take children away from parents. Number 42, create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of American tradition. That goes back to the protests and the left background in protests. Number 43 has been fully accomplished. Overthrow all colonial governments and turn them over to pro-communist regimes as they did in Africa. Number 44, internationalize the Panama Canal. The communists, frankly, didn't do that. Jimmy Carter and the globalists did it, and it has helped the communists, but it was more for globalist purposes. And number 45 is very important. It has not happened. Repeal the Connolly Reservation, where this was in accepting the World Court, the U.S. Senate passed the Connolly Reservation, basically that we can reject World Court jurisdiction for anything that interferes with national sovereignty or U.S. internal policy. And other countries have adapted forms of that too, and that's what has kept the World Court at bay all of these years. And so that number 45 has not been accomplished. And so in general, what I want to say is that these goals are moving forward under the aegis of globalism, which uses communism, and is very much pointing Americans towards what life is going to be like in a globalist world government.
You know, someone very profoundly
E.S.
once said
Herlong
many years
Jr.
ago that
delineated those 45 points to Congress, which Joel Skousen just reiterated. Very interesting. And you can, of course, see the very spiritual nature of Joel Skousen. Here's Roger Stone and his role in the sex cult takedown that he revealed.
That Raniere was a charlatan, and the record shows also that I'm the one that broke the stories that ultimately led to their arrest. So I think you deserve a great deal of credit for busting up this human trafficking cult.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and you're on the Alex Jones Show. I have noticed on QAnon an enormous amount of disinformation. We have Moby Dick going on here. This is terrific. We got to figure out who's who in this epic struggle between Robert Mueller and the forces of freedom, between those who would undo the results of the last election and those who believe in a constitutional government and the legitimacy of the Trump presidency. In any event, I have noticed on QAnon recently an enormous amount of disinformation regarding the recently exposed sex cult Nexium. And a huge amount of disinformation regarding my relationship with them. I served as a consultant lobbyist for them for 2 months. But to clarify that situation, joining me now is the crusading journalist who busted the Nexium sex cult wide open, leading to the arrest of these pedophiles. Frank Parlato, the publisher of Art Voice, joins us now by phone. Frank's welcome to the Alex Jones Show.
Thank you, Roger. It's a pleasure to be here.
So would you clarify, since you were there and worked briefly as a public relations man for the Nexium self-help program, which morphed into an abusive sex cult. Exactly what happened here, and tell people, to clarify this, what my actual role was.
Well, I was the publicist rather, at the time that you were involved. In fact, you were just getting out of your lobbyist relationship with Nexium as I was getting in. And I recall clearly at the time that you had quit this group that you were never a member of, but merely a consultant, because you thought that there was some untoward and possibly inappropriate behaviors on the part of the cult leader, Keith Raniere. So, I'm here to say unequivocally that you were never a member, and you quit after a pretty short tenure. And after I was in there, you would call me, as you recall, frequently to tell me that the leader of the cult was a charlatan.
Well, and I urged you, as you know, I urged you to get out. Now, I stress that in my brief association with this group, I never saw any evidence that they were a sex cult or that they were abusing women or girls. What I did sense was financial impropriety. They appeared to be latching on to wealthy young women, in many cases trust fund babies, and sucking up their money. This made me exceedingly uncomfortable. It's the reason I quit. They specifically wanted my assistance to secure the criminal indictment of a woman who had run afoul of the organization. I explained to them that I'm not an attorney. You can't purchase a criminal indictment. They needed a lawyer to pursue that, not a lobbyist. They really had no understanding of the levels of government. I also am proud to say that I was a source for you in your epic takedown of the cult. And I think it's important that people not be allowed to go online and smear me as being part and parcel of something that I had no part of and never witnessed. As you explained it to me, the sexual abuse comes much later.
That's absolutely correct, Roger, and I think it's very important to put on the record for anyone that's interested in knowing the actual truth relative to this cult, that you not only were not a member of the cult, but you had a positive, definite role in taking this cult down.
Well, I'm delighted to have that. I'm delighted to have that on the record, because many people who are detractors of either mine or InfoWars have tried to allege otherwise. I urge people who want the actual detail to go to this terrific article on the Art Voice. Roger Stone had role in taking the Nexium cult down, and I was never a member of this cult. I'm tired of the smears. I'm tired of the innuendo. I was first in and first out. I became exceedingly uncomfortable, but all I really saw was a substantial group of well-heeled, middle-aged women taking this self-esteem course, which I refused to take, but audited one afternoon, much to the consternation of the cult leaders. I also was around when they lost millions of dollars in a commodities trade. I think it was corn futures, of some of their financial supporters' money, which they then insisted was not the result of a bad investment by Keith Raniere, but the result of some kind of skullduggery on the part of the market, which of course was an absurdity, that one could manipulate the commodities market against them. I believe, Frank, that there are more arrests in the offing, and according to today's New York Post, Raniere and his cohorts are about to be charged additionally with human trafficking.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think the record should appropriately show that you were the first guy to say this is a crooked cult. And you were the first guy, certainly for me, who told me that Raniere was a charlatan. And the record shows also that I'm the one that broke the stories that ultimately led to their arrest. So I think you deserve a great deal of credit for busting up this human trafficking cult. You know, despite the fact that it wasn't human trafficking, as far as we know, back when you were there, it evolved into that. And I think if more people had heeded your voice at the time, maybe some of this human trafficking might have been prevented.
All right. Thank you very much, Frank Perlato. Thanks for calling in and helping us clarify that. I feel much better now because I'm tired of the disinformation that exists out there. I'm Roger Stone. You're on the Alex Jones Show. I do want to remind you
There's
that we
Roger
are
Stone's statement on his association, or lack thereof, with the Nexium cult. That is a sex cult out in Hollywood. And of course, it's interesting. A&E is doing a program on extreme beliefs and cults and extreme beliefs. And they have Nexium, they have all these other groups, and they also put us in there because we believe in the Second Amendment. I guess that's an extreme cult that they want to smear. They want people to believe that believing in the Second Amendment and that you have a right to defend yourself against tyrants and control freaks like the people that do programs on A&E, okay, or that organization that wants to indoctrinate the people into a leftist modality, which is basically big government political Satanism modality. Anybody who has actual resistance capabilities is an extremist, just like they did with, under President Obama, training the army and military, teaching them that the Founding Fathers were extremists. Founding Fathers were extremists. Wow. I mean, this is the level of the takeover that these globalists have done on this country. And President Trump is trying to take that back. Of course, he's got to re-educate our military and the young people going into the military who are brainwashed under Obama. That's like people who are 5 years in, 6 years in. He's got to re-educate them so they understand the Founding Fathers are not extremists, but they were enormous patriots. They were given the strength and power by the Holy Spirit and led by the providence of God to establish America and to attain and gain freedom. And Brother Lowe said a wonderful thing yesterday. He said he was just praying and God just nailed him. It's really hard and it's in plain view, of course, and you know everybody knows it in America. But it's the castle doctrine. The castle doctrine represents a kingly model. Okay, that's what it represents. But a lot of Americans are not even aware of that. But Americans should be aware of it because the idea of kings is already established in law, judicial law, in American law. It's just that all we think about when we say king is King George instead of King Jesus and his co-heirs with Christ, Romans 8:17. All right, folks, we'll take a short break. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us with more on the King's Report. See you on the other side.
I'm down here at the range today. I just learned a new technique from the father of the .44 Magnum, Elmer Keith, which is called shooting out of the notch, which allows you to make really long distance shots and still have an extremely precise sight picture. So I brought my CW9 car down, and with this little gun, we're gonna shoot this little munchkin at 200 yards up in the hills, applying this technique, and hopefully we'll make the shot. To apply this technique, instead of using the blade of the front sight lined up with the top of the rear sight, I'm going to take the dot of the front sight and raise it up so that it's out of the notch, but I'm still going to keep the front sight on my target. Bringing that front sight up like that is going to compensate for the bullet drop over that excessively long distance with just this little gun. So if applied right, we should be making contact. Let's see how it goes. I saw this shot, so I'm a little bit out of breath because you gotta run to make sure that is what I thought it was, and it was. So while making this shot, from that distance with these white dot sights, it literally would cover the entire target. You couldn't see what you were shooting. So using the Elmer Keith technique, you were able to raise it out of the back notch. I can't breathe. Out of the back notch, allowing you to keep your accuracy, aim, and also still see the target, which is key because it was a hard shot, not gonna lie. But yeah, it went great, and Elmer knows what he's talking about. And for such a small gun to be able to take that hit, I'm very impressed with this. All right, guys, be sure to like and share, and I'll see you out on the range. That was awesome. Hey, can I try that one? Yeah, let's see what the 380. Does everybody have eyes and ears?
We are back Friday, May 18th, 2018. And let's go to Kalawan Noir's new short video. Let's go to my man Kalawan Noir. NRA TV.
A couple months ago, I did a video called "The Media Love Mass Shootings." I'm gonna say it again. The mainstream media love mass shootings. Now, that video was met with huge resistance from the media, claiming that I was lying, I was making stuff up, I was being disingenuous, and that they didn't indeed love mass shootings because they reported on all mass shootings. Well, I stand here today in front of Dixon High School, where a potential mass shooting was stopped by a human resource officer. And essentially what that officer did was he utilized his firearm, a good guy with a gun, to stop a kid who brought a gun into the school to shoot up a bunch of kids at Dixon High School. And I look around here today, and I don't see anyone from CNN. I don't see anyone from MSNBC or any other major news network. Yeah, there are a couple of local media outlets here, but as far as the major news ones, I don't see them. Which proves my point. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead, so they don't care. They're not here. They're not anywhere. So, with respect to my video, the media love mass shootings, they do, but only when there's a ton of blood. And when they can push a gun control narrative by demonstrating that we need more gun control laws because of this mass tragedy that happened. Yet, when we suggest implementing more security guards, implementing more layers of security for our schools, harden our schools, metal detectors, you name it. Yet, when something like that actually happens and is effective and works, they're nowhere to be found.
Is that? That's Kalawan Noir breaking it down. NRA also announces Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North as next NRA president. Let's hear their take on that.
These are dangerous and challenging times for the Second Amendment. We face an enemy that is willing to spend whatever it takes to drown out our voice and disgrace the name of our great association and our members. They don't just want to ban every semi-automatic firearm in America. They want to repeal the Second Amendment once and for all. For any other organization, these challenges would be too much to face. But the NRA has fought through times like these before. And we know how to win. Back in the 90s, Bill Clinton waged war on gun owners and the Second Amendment. He banned entire classes of semi-automatic firearms, and he thought he had us on the run. But NRA members and Charlton Heston fought back with a principled fury that rallied the entire nation. We taught Bill Clinton a lesson that both his wife and Barack Obama would have been wise to follow. Don't mess with the National Rifle Association of America. No organization has a more proven track record of doing what it takes to win in the toughest times than the NRA. And this is a time for warriors. In times like these, we don't shrink and we don't run. We ready ourselves for battle and get stronger than ever before. This time is no exception. I am proud to announce Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North as the next president of the National Rifle Association of America. I can think of no one better to serve in this critical position. Oliver North is a legendary warrior for American freedom, a gifted communicator, and a skilled leader. He's an unflinching, unapologetic defender of Second Amendment freedom who has earned the enduring respect and admiration of our members. And he strikes genuine fear into the freedom-hating political elites who so desperately wish for a weakened NRA. He understands what all the so-called Washington and media experts still don't, that the strength of this organization will always and forever come from our nearly 6 million members. They can outspend us 1,000 to 1. They can have every talk show, every celebrity, and every elitist college professor in the country. But they will never, ever convince the American people to give up their freedom. So to you, the almost 6 million members of the National Rifle Association of America, it has been the honor of my life to serve you for all these years, and we're not done yet. I am proud to report that we have never been stronger, never been more energized, and never been more equipped with strong and courageous and battle-proven leaders. And to all of those who dream of stealing the freedom of every law-abiding American, you'd be wise to take a lesson from Bill Clinton, Al Gore, John Kerry, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and every other political retiree who picked the wrong fight with the wrong people. We're the toughest defender of individual freedom this country's ever seen. And we are, now and forever, freedom's safest place.
There you go. Lieutenant Colonel Ollie North will become the next president of the NRA. Of course, we reported that to you, but those were CEO Wayne LaPierre's comments on that. To November and beyond, on May 5th, 175 pro-Second Amendment Patriots packed a meeting room in Dallas K. Bailey Hutchinson's Convention Center to learn what more they can do to be a force multiplier in this year's elections, and to learn from the next generation of Second Amendment leaders on how to further engage college and high school students in our efforts. Attendees were welcomed by James Dickey, chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, was followed by Florida State Representative Court Byrd. Representative Byrd gave a chilling account of the political climate in Tallahassee that ultimately led to the passage of a package of gun control laws. Both gentlemen stressed the need for enhanced involvement in the 2018 elections by NRA members and gun owners. The highlight of the event, however, was an energetic panel of young, passionate Second Amendment activists who gave their perspectives on the emerging youth movement in the gun rights debate. The panel, moderated by ILA Grassroots Program and Campaign Field Operations Director Glenn Caroline, featured Rachel Malone, who serves as Operation Director for the Republican Party of Texas, which works to implement Chairman Dickey's version within each department of RPT and connects with board members, elected officials, and of grassroots on behalf of the chairman. Rachel is a nationally certified defense handgun and rifle instructor whose passion is to train Texans in the process by which they can make change happen. Rachel Freehill, who is a field director for Turning Point USA in North Texas and Oklahoma, as well as Texas media spokeswoman for Empowered, a nonprofit organization that fights for women's right to self-defense on college campuses. She's the daughter of a Dallas police officer and the soon-to-be wife of a Denton County Sheriff's deputy, and says that being close to law enforcement has taught her the importance of being well-armed. Rachel works at over 60 college campuses and has become skilled at appealing to the interests of a variety of different personalities, from the social justice warrior student to the professor who is deeply set in their convictions that guns have no place in civilized societies. Doesn't work so well for those societies. Estrella Gonzalez, who is completing her second year as a broadcasting major in the University of Texas at Arlington. She joined Turning Point USA in the fall of 2016 and founded a chapter on her campus. She has served as chapter president for 2 years and works as a campus coordinator for the organization as well. Last summer, she was awarded the Margaret Thatcher Young Leader Award at the Young Women's Leadership Summit and is a finalist in the 2018 Radio Mercury Awards for her PSA Mixed Signals. Last September, she served on the panel at the NRA National Women Leadership Forum Summit. Jeremy Kitchen, who is a former president of Texas Tech Young Conservatives of Texas, former board member of Young Conservatives of Texas, and current chief of staff to a Texas House member. These are the young people up here that are leading that panel. The panelists provided insight outlining their own personal experiences, including mobilizing young activists, and took questions and comments from audience members. The final speaker was Trey Ramsey, NRA ILA's Southeast Grassroots Field Coordinator, who discussed ILA's various volunteer programs and how conference attendees would enroll and recruit other volunteers. If the attendance and passion exhibited in Dallas were any indication, those on the front lines of our battle to protect and preserve the Second Amendment understand what's at stake in this November's election and are ready to lead the charge. And of course, we were very proud of our Sanctuary Patriots, who not only came and showed up at the Dallas NRA event, but also showed up at the Mango event. And of course, we're happy to report that even though Mango didn't win, he won in the places that we were active.
Yes.
He won in all Pike County, Wayne, Lackawanna, etc.
Monroe.
Monroe. But Mango did win in those areas. Wagner is better than Tom Wolf, okay? He is better than Tom Wolf. And as I think was it you, Tim, or was it Greg? One of you guys were saying. But of course, because he has to appeal, Wagner has to appeal to the more leftist crowd to get more votes in the general election against Tom Wolf. He is kind of leaning, and he does have a transgender funder, doesn't he? A big transgender donor, is what I heard. So that's why he's for the transgender bathroom bill and other lunacy like that. Realistic Scenarios prepares carry holders for the unexpected. This is an important video. You reach your guest video limit. Please log in and register for free to gain access. Okay, so I've reached my limit here. Can you bring this up, Tim? Go to NRA TV.
Oh, really? NRA TV wants you to pay?
They want me to log in. Realistic Scenario prepares carry holder for the unexpected. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be back with this video and more. Stay with us.
Boy, wasn't that fun shooting this Tommy gun today?
It's always fun shooting Tommy guns. This one especially. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
All polished and chromed up. It really looks like $1,000,000.
Yeah, yeah. Elliot Ness would have loved one of those.
Yeah, and it's available right now in your favorite dealer, and you go pick one up.
Yeah, just have him call your distributor.
I mean, the gun, you know, was initially made way back when, back in the 27 is this one.
Yeah, Model 27.
I was surprised by how quick it knocked down those plates.
Oh, 3.5 second run, under 3.5 second run, knocking down a plate right. 341.
I mean, the gun is heavy. It's about what, 12, 14 pounds, especially with this drum. But it's surprising how quick you can go with it. It would actually make quite a good self-defense rifle at home.
If I climbed in somebody's window and they were aiming that at me, I think I'd get out of there real quick. So
that sounds about right to me.
Just the intimidation factor alone.
Fire!
We are back Friday, May 18th, 2018. Let's get back to this realistic scenario training that prepares carry holders for the unexpected. Here's pop star Kaya Jones, who we saw at the NRA convention. She's the girl with the pink hair. And I thought I recognized her, but I didn't know until afterwards. I was, oh man, we should have got a picture with her, and we should have stopped talking to her. She was walking around all over the place. I saw her multiple times during the convention. Nice girl and a patriot.
And this is NRA Carry Guard Daily. If you're going to carry a firearm in public, there is nothing more important than training, being ready for the worst to happen. To do this, you can go through simulation training. NRA Carry Guard puts a program like that on. Recently, I got a chance to talk to former Pussycat Dolls singer Kaya Jones about her experience with this simulation training.
Get on your knees! Get on your knees!
Oh my God! Oh my God! He has a gun! He has a gun! Oh my God! He has a gun!
Do any of you have a cell phone?
Yes.
Can you call 911?
I jumped at the opportunity when you guys asked to do the scenario because I felt like I learned so much that I wanted to be more involved and I want to continue this training. It is pretty intense. Like I was feeling it afterwards. It shakes you up a bit, but I think the more that you do this kind of realistic training, it prepares you to do the right thing if you're ever in a circumstance, and understanding that this is not about vengeance. This is about protecting. You know, it's protecting an innocent bystander, protecting yourself, but also knowing when to use your firearm and not, and that this isn't just, you know, pull your gun out and scare people, you know. And I think that's what's really important about the training that I received with Carry Guard, was to teach us just those basic factors so that we don't make those kind of mistakes. But it was an intense scenario. I was
That'll do it for us. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Catch NRA Carry Guard Daily
There you go.
Monday
So
through
NRA now
Fridays
starting
at
to implement some
1:30
of the
Eastern Time. See you then.
simulation training, which is really key. That's fantastic that they're starting to implement some of that training. And of course, getting good folks armed and ready so that the devils cannot succeed. Anti-gun Democrat proposes banning semi-autos and going after resistors. God. Look at these trash heads. The headline of USA Today's op-ed said it all. Anti-gun Congressman Eric Swalwell. This is a little trash piece of trash right here. Look at that. Look at that freaking power cult. Look at that cultist. Look at that. Look at that radical leftist cultist. They're talking about people who believe in the Second Amendment as cultists. Look at this freaking radical cultist who's just frothing out the mouth and seething in his wicked black heart, dark heart, about how he wants to disarm the population and rule over you like a freaking masterclass. What a pathetic, white supremacist, white privileged piece of trash. Little racist. Swalwell of California last week advocated for legislation to ban an as yet undetermined class of semi-automatic firearms and to go after resistors who refuse to relinquish their lawfully acquired firearms. Here they are. They're starting it. Here they go. He's calling to go after them. That means he's going to use the power of the state and SWAT teams to go after and potentially even kill those who don't turn in their guns. Lest anyone mistakes his intention, Swalwell followed up with a lengthy NBC News interview this week in which he made clear that his own proposal is a departure from prior gun bans that allowed those who obtained the firearms when they were lawful to keep them. Swalwell said that after thinking about the different ways to address it, I concluded the only way to do this is to get those weapons out of our communities. What a totalitarian, white privilege, white supremacist, KKK, Ku Klux Klan member, white supremacist is what he is. I think I said that twice. What a piece of trash. According to the NBC piece, Swalwell was modeling his own proposal on laws passed during the 1990s in Australia. The article then inaccurately states, but while Australia comes up often in gun debates, almost no prominent figures have proposed national laws that would demand that gun owners turn in existing weapons en masse. The truth is that anyone who suggests the United States should adopt Australian-style gun control, a club that includes such infamous gun ban advocates as Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, is by definition advocating for the forcible disarming of resistors. That in fact was a signature feature of the Australian approach. The widespread disarming of Australian citizens occurred through a comprehensive scheme that proceeded as follows. First, the various political subdivisions within Australia unanimously agreed to a uniform ban on large categories of popular firearms. The ban was both retroactive and prospective. Second, the government instituted amnesty periods, which allowed those who had previously acquired the newly banned firearms lawfully to surrender them to the government for a fixed and non-negotiable rate of compensation. Third, the most importantly, anyone who refused to relinquish their formerly lawful property was to be treated as an armed criminal, with all the physical jeopardy and legal consequences that entails. One of the actual, people that inspire Crocodile Dundee, the famous movie series, was an Australian gun owner, and he fought back and was killed. I think with the SWAT team came and killed him, but he killed like 3 SWAT team members or something like that on his fight out. But I mean, he was not willing to give up his guns. And if more people in Australia did that, then the corrupt, leftist, white supremacist government could not have enacted it. But of course, Australians, as Trevor Newman says, being sort of used to acquiescing to the state, turned them in. That's a different story here in America. You try to do this in America, especially with the history of the Founding Fathers and the remnant that still exists here of the 8 to 10 million plus AR-15 owners. You're talking about 100 million plus gun owners. Although they're not organized together, you will have people that will fight back in much more high frequency than you had in Australia, because they lack that history of fighting for their own freedom and fighting and winning against the British. They became part and parcel of the British Empire. They become absorbed into the British Empire. They became a slave nation. But America was, the Founding Fathers were about to be slaves. As they said, they risked life and limb, putting everything on the line because they knew that if the British won here, they'd all be dead. The Australian government also uses a may-issue licensing scheme for firearm acquisition, which, among other things, requires an applicant to show a genuine reason for needing the gun. Self-defense, which the U.S. Supreme Court considers a central component of America's right to keep and bear arms, is not recognized under Australian law as a permissible reason for the acquisition, ownership, and use of a firearm. Again, because the Australians have become slaves to their slave master class, which are the political ruling elite, which are above the law, tax exempt, they can do whatever they want. And of course, they rule over you and lecture you how you should be a little good boy and a good girl and not even think about being able to defend yourself. What an absurd reason to defend yourself is not a permissible reason for acquisition, ownership, or use of a firearm. Ridiculous! You stupid kangaroo court, literally. Outrageous. But of course, that's what you get because we still live in Satan's kingdom. And there you go. Self-defense, not only that, but as the Second Amendment states, a well-regulated militia being necessary for a free state, being necessary of a well-organized militia of gun-owning private citizens, organized, willing to stand up against oppressive governments and oppressive tyrannical forces within government that will seek to do them harm. This is the history, this is the legacy of the American founding fathers. Australian-style gun control, in other words, is completely foreign to and incompatible with American history, tradition, and rights of firearm ownership. Simply put, there is no reconciling Australian-style gun control with America's Second Amendment, a fact which even some gun control advocates in their more candid moments are willing to admit. If Swalwell has distinguished himself at all from other American advocates of the Australian approach, it's because he's willing to be more forthcoming about the fact that it would turn millions of formerly law-abiding Americans into armed, quote, criminals with the stroke of a pen. In his NBC interview, however, he tried to have it both ways. First, he insisted, "I'm not proposing a roundup or confiscation." That's what they always say. That's what they always say. That's what all these white supremacists, fear-mongering, hateful, vengeful, wicked, evil, dark-hearted politicians always say. White privileged boy from California trying to steal man's right to self-defense. Man and woman's right to self-defense. This little boy in California, this little white boy, this little white supremacist liberal punk is trying to steal men and women's, real men and women's right to self-defense. Real men and women know how to defend themselves. You pieces of white supremacist, white privileged liberal trash. Call them what they are. "I'm not proposing a roundup or confiscation," he says. "You have to trust him because he speaks with a lisp, and he wears a fancy pink tie, and he wears a blue aquamarine blue shirt, and he's really nice. He would never hurt you. He's just going to send SWAT teams to kill you because you are one day a law-abiding citizen, and after his little bill passes, you're now a freaking criminal." And they won't even go after freaking MS-13, but they'll go after your ashtray because you are worse than MS-13. You're an extremist and a cult member because you believe in the Second Amendment. Ridiculous. That's why they're putting us on A&E's cult and extreme beliefs, because we have such a clear and rarefied theology about the rod of iron and why gun ownership is a must in the kingdom of God. A must. You're talking about a castle doctrine. The whole kingdom of God is a castle doctrine. That's why they fear us so bad, even though we're a relatively small ministry. I mean, it's spreading so fast Gun owners are starting to understand their biblical duty to have a castle doctrine, to be kings and queens. The biblical foundations of castle doctrine are now being elucidated only through Rodemeyer Ministry, by the way. We're the only ones that are doing it in the whole wide world, folks. We have that niche that God has blessed us with. And we're not bragging. It's just God has blessed us with that revelation. And that's why the left freaks out. They freak out about us. They freak out about our events. They freak out about everything we do because they see we are growing in the gun community. We're being embraced. And that's why they'll try every manner of slander, every manner of lie. They'll try to say every manner of, evil thing, which they're doing to try to diminish that. But this is the more they do that, just like how they do with President Trump, the more they expose themselves for the radical communist, leftist, white privileged, white supremacist KKK members that they are, trying to keep minorities in prison, trying to keep minorities disarmed, trying to keep minorities on the plantation, and the minorities are waking up to it. Getting something free from the devil is not getting something free at all. And now these people in the minority communities and urban communities, they're starting to realize, wow, getting these things from the democratic white devils who are parading themselves around and more postures, they care for you. No. Getting a little free $200 or $300, $500 or little food stamps for free while they tax from, hey, farmers feed their cattle. They give them free food. They give them free health care. They give them free welfare. But they farm their ashtrays and then they slaughter them one day. These minorities are starting to wake up to these white supremacists, white privileged, political Satanists, whom we call the leftist politicians. And of course, many on the neocon right as well. We are able to think for ourselves. We are children of God and co-heirs with Christ. Let no man take thy crown, because Christ himself has crowned us with sovereignty and kingship. Ooh, boy, the left hates. See, they love parading the centralized fake kings, but they don't want to let the normal citizens understand that they have kingship as well in the kingdom of God. And that kingship involves the dominion of the use of force. It involves the rod of iron. Go ahead, pull up that A&E video trailer of us. They got the king, they got me shouting and ranting, and they got this little picture of me going, as if people are shocked to see that. They see me ranting every freaking day. What's so shocking about that? Oh, you're going to scare people away. Oh, they're radical because their pastor speaks out pretty strong. Shut up. I'm radical against the devil. I'm radical against commies. I'm radical against political Satanists. I'm radical against socialists who hide them, masquerade as democratic socialists, but they're really commies. All you political centralist cult members who want to disarm the population, who want to make us into your slaves, and you want to be tax exempt while you morally posture and virtue signal about how you're taking care of the poor when you're tax farming them to death and you're tax farming the population to death. You pieces of white supremacist, white privileged, trash cult member devils. Let's go see this clip.
For almost 2,000 people coming into this group. It sounds funny to say it. But
There's Vargas. Look at that. There's Vargas. You're right. She's a famous anchor leftist reporter. She's a commie.
You saying anybody could become a member of a cult?
When we think about harmful cults, we don't think about our next door neighbors.
We were being groomed by a master pedophile.
I'm the only branded person who's publicly speaking about it.
They put their trust into something that turned out to be a monster.
Rod of iron, the equalizer of force. Look at that monster. Look at that monster.
On your hands.
Look at that monster.
Everything in my body
standing up for Second Amendment rights and women's self-defense.
gone to the FBI, and they keep telling us that
yes.
This is going to turn out in
Love how they
history
kind of try
to
to
be
lump
one of
us into
the worst
sex
things
cults
this
and
country
kind
has
of
seen.
other wacky groups.
I still
We're the only
like
ones that are
I'm not free.
decentralized. We're the only ones that don't have a centralized body. We're the only ones that don't take membership roll calls. We're the only ones that say to people, own private property and own your own firearm and stand with George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution of the Kingdom of God, and understand the Catholic doctrine of kingship that the Bible says that no man take thy crown, and understand the dominion of use of force, the rod of iron. Oh, we're so extreme. We're so extreme because we're standing up for conservative principles and a woman's right to be able to defend herself. Oh, we must be so misogynist. You remember Vargas trying to ask me, so is your church like a little, is it your church like a patriarchy? Remember that? Something like that?
She said, do wives have to always obey their husbands?
Do wives always obey their husband? And then I said, look, the Bible says in Ephesians 5 very clearly, husbands, love your wife unconditionally, even though she's unlovable sometimes. And wives, respect your husband unconditionally, even though he's not respectful at times. That's how you change. Anyways, we talked about. I'm thinking I should maybe we taped the whole thing, by the way, because we know they're going to try to smear us and they're edit us out and try to take things out of context, etc. So I may even release our video, our entire recording of Vargas, the little A&E team, white supremacist team that came here to try to smear us and say that we are extreme because we believe in the Second Amendment. We're extreme because we believe in the Second Amendment. Well, I guess that makes 100 million Americans extreme. Of course, that's what they believe because they're freaking globalists. They're freaking allied with NATO and the UN and the EU. They want that freaking hellhole system on top of us so they can use strategic tension and divide and conquer strategy to continually manipulate the population, continually set them at odds with one another so they can't come together and realize who the real enemies are. It is the actual tax farmers, the actual political elite that rule over us, farm us, disarm us, dismember us, and kill us, exploit us. Sorry, little white privileged children on the left. The more you try to attack reality, the more it exposes you. And people turn against you like they have. And that's why you're so hated and so reviled and so called out because you are fake. You're nothing but fakes. Fakes. I'm thinking of releasing that video in advance.
Let's think about that.
Well, you know what happened? When Alex Jones was interviewed by Megyn Kelly, and he had recordings of it and everything, because he knew that there was going to be a slam job, he released it in advance. About a week in advance. He released it in a week in advance so that people could see the context. And so you could see the difference. And of course, it proved to be a great move. And Megyn Kelly was totally destroyed, totally dismantled. She's a complete, now her ratings are completely dropped, destroyed, dysfunctional. These people know we got their whole interviews on film. They came to film us, but the condition was, okay, you can come film us, you can invert, but we're also going to film you. And that's what reporting is about, to keep these, quote, reporters, these investigators honest. Okay, what are you reporting about? What we said? Well, we interviewed the whole thing, and we may put the whole dang thing out in totality. So there's no changing of context and switching things around to do the little editing switcheroo, which these political leftists always do because they're in the business of propaganda. Whereas we're in the business of truth. We'll show the whole dang thing. Oh, my Lord. These people are so screwed. They're so screwed. Returning back to this article, though, here is that white privileged, white supremacist little Congress boy out of California. First thing he says, I'm not proposing a roundup of confiscation. It would be like anything else that's banned. If you're caught with it, there would be a steep penalty. Like death, okay? Like death. And if your ATF agents going door to door to collect assault weapons is unfounded and not what. Oh, and we're supposed to believe you little commie. Oh, we should have believed Mao Zedong. We should have believed Stalin and Pol Pot. We should have believed Castro and Chavez and Maduro, right? All you freaking leftists on Hitler, all you little, I don't care if you're a white or other color, if you're a commie, you are taken over by the spirit of hell and Satan. You have become a devil. And you are out to exploit and ravage and destroy humanity for your own profit. You are in a cult. You are in a cult. Despicable commies posing around and as parading themselves around, posing as good-hearted people when they are vicious inside, when they want to see you on your knees groveling to them, especially if you are strong. They want to see your will broken, snapped, your metaphysical posture and spinal cord shattered, so that all you can do is grovel at their feet and beg them for mercy. They get off on that. They're complete predatory demons. And boy, oh boy, they do this in America, they're going to get a fight. They're going to get a fight. That's what's so great about this country, you know? That's so wonderful about the Founding Fathers. They gave those arrogant little pompous little freaking white supremacist, white privileged Brits a kick in the ashtray. They made them into a damn ashtray. Stupid Brits have taken over this country with freaking Rothschilds and Soros and these leftist Europeans, allied with Saudi Arabia and radical Islam, allied with the Black Ops, the Black Ops Black Horse of the Apocalypse. That is the CIA and FBI. And of course, allied with Red China, the genocidal mass murderers. Now, the normal Chinese person is completely oppressed because of these political Satanists, but they're all held together by the common thread of the cult of power. They've sold them. They're soulless, vapid, empty, depressed, unhappy, arrogant, narcissistic, demonic entities. And because they're so nasty and ugly and incompetent, they want you to be the same so they can share in that suffering and feel happy about it. Share in their misery because they can't see anybody else succeeding. They can't be happy for anybody else. They can't be joyful that somebody's being successful because he's provided other people with service and products and help. No. They are the consummate wicked on the earth. There you go. And this little bozo says, they don't go collecting drugs that are banned or any substance or weapon that's banned. And I'm not proposing that. Oh, really? They don't? Oh, you're saying the ATF and law enforcement in California don't go collecting drugs that are banned? What about that stupid show, that old show, Cops, where they used to do drug raids with SWAT teams and confiscate drugs and ban substances? Oh, kind of forget about that show. That was like it was a national program. Remember this? Mm-hmm. What the hell are you smoking? This bozo is smoking crack. He's got more cracks than one, let's put it that way. Little piece of trash. That, of course, is a lie. Law enforcement agents with enough probable cause that someone possesses drug or other contraband to get a warrant absolutely do go after the contraband. And if this piece of trash, white privilege, white supremacist trash, KKK leftist member passes this law in California, These law enforcement agents better retire or stand down or kick him out. Shame on you, pathetic, sold-out forces in the law enforcement community, who are probably the minority, who will go and abide by these white supremacist KKK white privilege laws, which of course are leftist. Shame on you if you go there. You are the problem then. Real law enforcement agents, you take an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America. And if you go along with this, you are desecrating your oath and your country, you piece of trash. And all the other good cops better be on your ashtray and they better punish you. Because otherwise they're going against their oath to defend and protect the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestic. And this piece of trash congressman from California is a domestic terrorist. He's a commie. Remember in the U.S., used to be a crime to be a commie and used to be put in prison because it is an existential threat ideology to this republic. Calling gun owners, you freaking trash head, Harry Reid, freaking son who has a $5 billion contract solar deal with China, and that's why you kicked out the Bundys off their land. Freaking trash head. Calling gun owners domestic terrorists. You're the damn domestic terrorist, you white supremacist KKK member, white privilege, leftist trash head. We better buy a white cone hat for you. And yours, your little coterie of Pelosi's and this idiot, who's a freaking idiot's name. What's this fool's name? What's this idiot's name again? Swalwell. All he's got is a swall in his well. Oh, Lord, give me a break. We are sick and tired of becoming domestic terrorists and extremists because we abide by the Constitution of the United States of America and we understand the judicial precedence of the Castle Doctrine and understand that we are kings and queens and that we have the right to protect ourselves and we have the rod of iron given to us by God. Psalm 2, Revelation 2:27, Revelation 12:5, Revelation 19:15, baby. You can't beat the sword of truth that emerges out of the mouth of the Lord. Woo! It will slay you and divide good and evil. And you leftist, white supremacist, white privileged KKK Klansmen, you are defeated in the name of Jesus. Oh, and when they hear the name of Jesus, oh, yeah, oh. They want to freak when they hear the name of Jesus. Oh, they are so pathetic. Golly. Anybody who illegally possesses a contraband firearm potentially risks the same treatment. Swalwell, who's got a swall in his well, who touts his credentials as a former prosecutor, surely knows that. But when asked to elaborate about the stiff penalties that would supposedly ensure compliance with his scheme, Swalwell, who's got a swall in his well, seemingly contradicted his no confiscation stance, stating, I'd want to first get the gun. Of course you would, you little commie, because you want to kill gun owners, you trash piece of shish. To their credit, of course, they won't do it themselves. They'll send the bought-off, sold-out police forces to do it. And that's why the good cops have to say, screw you, and you are unconstitutional, and call out their evil members, which, of course, the left has been recruiting into law enforcement, especially in California and leftist country, leftist communist state. To their credit, NBC asked Swalwell directly whether he was prepared for some of the confrontations that might erupt from this, adding, "You're surely familiar with the slogan, 'I'll give you my gun when you pry for my cold, dead hands.'" Swalwell brushed aside the question, indicating that Parkland survivors who have been advocating for gun control have given him the courage for resolute action. Oh, yes, the children gave me courage. Oh, yes, I was so scared to talk about it before, even though my whole career has been based on it. But the children at Parkland gave me courage. Okay. Didn't mention the Sutherland Springs shooter that got killed by the good man with the AR-15. And more people died there. 87, what was it? 47 some died there. Okay, it was a 40, in the 40s died. And so, but they don't mention that. No, that person didn't give him courage. Okay? Only these leftist children, CNN-trained gun control freaks called them. They're the ones who gave him courage. All these kids who are given talking points by the Democratic Party. All these kids who literally recite and been trained by CNN, literally. Whose dad is an FBI, or was it FBI? He worked for the FBI. This little boy, Hogg. Golly, give me a freaking break. They are the ones that gave you courage. Talk about using dead kids for your agenda. These pieces of white privilege, white supremacist Klansmen on the left. They're freaking Klansmen. This little Swalwell is a dang Klansman. He's a Nazi Klansman because the Klansmen and the Nazis want to disarm the population. Little freaking Swalwell who's got a well in his swallow in his well, and freaking Klansman suit. Give me a break. Can we get a picture of Swalwell and then put a white Ku Klux Klan hat on top of him? Can we do that? Do you guys know how to do a tech team? Does tech team know how to do that?
In Sutherland Springs, 27 were killed and 20 were injured. So 47
40
killed and injured is 47. 27 were killed.
In total, yeah. Unbelievable. That's more dead than the Parkland shooting.
That included the perpetrator. So 26. He killed 26.
Who's he?
The bad guy also died.
In the church? Sure.
Yeah. So 26 in the church.
Yeah. And in Parkland, what was that, 17?
Parkland was 17, 14 students and 3 adults.
So the Sutherland Springs was more dead, but of course many, including injured, a lot, many, almost double, triple. The actions he's calling for, however, carry inherent risks of further unnecessary loss of innocent life. That is, law-abiding citizens like Mark Robinson so eloquently says, "I am the majority. I never shot anybody. I never committed a violent crime or felony. I'm the law-abiding citizen. I am the majority. And you're trying to prosecute the majority for the crimes of an insane lunatic that should have been caught by the damn FBI, given the fact that law enforcement and the FBI visited this fool 39 dang times, and on social media, he was saying that he's going to shoot up a school, which is illegal. Give me a freaking break. The American people are not stupid anymore. They're out of their slumber. The sleeping giant has awoken. We woke. Trash heads. Klansmen. The leftist, white privileged Klansmen. But that is what the gun debate has come to in America, with at least one gun control advocate so emboldened that he's openly willing to put violent confrontations on the table to advance the agenda. And that's why trying to treat them nice and try to talk to them nice is bullshit. Okay, some people in the gun community, okay, you want to do that? Fine, you do that. But don't criticize others who have taken another approach and call them for the commies that they are and the white supremacist Klansmen that they are. It's normal to get upset when you see a Ku Klux Klan member. It's normal when you see a real Nazi trying to disarm the Bible. It's normal to get upset. It's abnormal to try to say, okay, can we discuss this? So do what you got to do in the gun community. If you want to talk to them nicely, go ahead. But don't demonize people that want to talk to them and call them out for who they are. Just like Jesus called those Pharisees vipers and of their father the devil. Don't be on your little moral crusading fake Christian aim saying, oh, Christians, we don't talk dirty to those people. Jesus Christ himself called them a brood of vipers and from the pit of hell and from their father the devil. And he manufactured a weapon and a whip and whipped their ashtray out the dang synagogue, which he called the church of Satan. That's not politically correct, and he wasn't talking nice. It's all these fake Christians that keep on calling anybody else who speaks out against the demon political class and calls them what they are, which are devils, which Jesus Christ called them too, the devils. Anybody else who calls them for what they are called, oh, you're being a little too extreme. Well, it's either extreme or it's either true. It's either politically correct or it's either true. And if it's true, you say it. Just like Jesus called them a brood of vipers. Just like Jesus Christ called them of their father, the devil. And just like he called the churches of Satan, because they work for the freaking centralized state. Just like a lot of these churches work for the centralized government, teaching a socialized Jesus. We are sick and tired of you fakes out there, calling us fakes. And that's why Trump's so amazing, because he called the fake news for what it is. It is fakes. They are fake. Give me a break. They give my Ku Klux Klan patch. Give him a little Klansman hat, a little white cone hat with the two little eye sockets like a ghost. Oh, Lord mercy, give me a break. Whether Swalwell is serious or whether he's just hoping to move the open window on what is considered legitimate rhetoric in the realm of gun control policy is perhaps debatable. What is no longer debatable, however, is a true ideology that lies behind the gun control project in America. It is the abolition of the right to gun ownership in America as we know it. Resistors will be damned and killed. That's what they're willing to do, folks. That's what they're willing to do. Okay, just put up that Klansman. Just put up that Klansman right there. Just put that up. Put that picture right now. Quick. Just put it up. Hey, look, it's Swalwell and Nancy Pelosi. When they get together for coffee, isn't it ironic they also pose as Christians. They always pretend they're Christians too. You can have fake Christians, fake ashtray Christians. And these leftists, I'm Christian. How dare you? I am Judeo-Christian, okay? I just want to act like a freaking commie. Okay? I want to disarm you. I want to make you weak. I want to be tax exempt. I want to live with the ruling class and leech off you and make billions of dollars off you tax farming you. But I'm a Christian, you see, because I proclaim to be. And you see, and I have my little, and I speak with a little lisp, and I'm really nice, you see. I won't harm you. Trust me. Just hand me your guns. Hand them over. I won't hurt you. Meanwhile, you have them behind the scenes. Yes, let's get the SWAT teams in. Kill them all. These people are sick. They're devils. White supremacists, white privilege, Ku Klux Klan, leftist members. They are communists parading around as modernists. And we are sick of them. We know who you are. We see who you are. And you are going to be destroyed politically. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us with more on the King's Report.
Boy, wasn't that fun shooting this Tommy gun today?
It's always fun shooting Tommy guns. This one especially. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
All polished and chromed up. It really looks like $1,000,000.
Yeah, yeah. Elliot Ness would have loved one of those.
Yeah, and it's available right now in your favorite dealer, and you go pick one up.
Yeah, just have him call your distributor.
I mean, the gun, you know, was initially made way back when, back in the 27 is this one.
Yeah, Model 27.
I was surprised by how quick it knocked down those plates.
Oh, 3.5 second run, under 3.5 second run, knocking down a plate right. 341.
I mean, the gun is heavy. It's about what, 12, 14 pounds, especially with this drum. But it's surprising how quick you can go with it. It would actually make quite a good self-defense rifle at home.
If I climbed in somebody's window and they were aiming that at me, I think I'd get out of there real quick. So
that sounds about right to me.
Just the intimidation factor alone.
Fire!
He's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound.
And we are back. Welcome back, Friday, May 18th, 2018. Reporting live from the Chanigung to all the kings and queens of the kingdom of God who understand the castle doctrine. Hey, we all understand the castle doctrine. Kings and queens of the kingdom of God. Let's go to Tim for a breaking news and breaking report. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, the left has been fomenting violence against President Trump and all conservatives, especially gun owners. And another incident like that happened this morning at one of President Trump's castles in Florida. He was stopped by police.
So somebody trying to assassinate him.
Yeah, well, a man who was firing shots, waving an American flag, and yelling and spewing some information about President Trump, that was in quotes, was shot and wounded by police early Friday at Trump National Doral. the golf and spa resort owned by President Donald Trump in northwest Miami-Dade.
They're starting to unleash the loonies.
The shooting at the resort happened around 1:30 a.m. That's this morning. Miami-Dade Police Director Juan Perez said during a pre-dawn news conference outside the resort that was carried live by local television stations. These officers did not hesitate for 1 second to engage this individual who was actively shooting in the lobby of the hotel, Perez said. The man who was shot was seen sitting up on a gurney as rescue workers took him to Kendall Regional Hospital. The man's identity and current condition were not immediately known. He had an American flag that he did drape over the counter. That all will be part of the investigation. We're going to take it from there and see what his real motives are, Perez said. Perez said the incident was not immediately being considered an act of terrorism, but that possibility is not being discounted. Currently, Miami-Dade and Doral police are leading the investigation into the incident. The shooting of the man by police will be investigated by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement as its standard procedure.
Well, did CNN take responsibility and MSNBC for reporting 90% negative news about Trump?
Right, fomenting
whipping
violence.
People up into violent tirades. Kathy Griffin's having pictures of beheaded President Trump with blood running down his face. I mean, does the left take any responsibility for these kind of things?
They should. Yeah.
Fomenting their brain dead, dumbed down, psychotropic using constituents onto attacking the Trump residences, Trump properties. Ridiculous. Where's CNN? How come they're not calling a town hall meeting?
Yeah.
Tomorrow there should be a town hall meeting in the Trump Mar-a-Lago, whatever, to talk about how the left and CNN have whipped up the left to try to assassinate the president.
That's right.
But of course they won't do that.
They won't do that, no. They won't do that.
Because they're white supremacist Klansmen.
Yes. Meanwhile, President Trump today is expected to announce a cut to federal funds going to Planned Parenthood. This announcement is expected today. An executive action is based on a 1988 Reagan regulation, but can't eliminate most of Planned Parenthood's federal funding. On Friday, the Trump administration will announce a proposed rule to cut taxpayer funding to abortionists like Planned Parenthood under Title X, a program that provides $260 million annually in federal funding for contraception and other family planning initiatives. The proposal would require a bright line of physical as well as financial separation between Title X programs and any program or facility where abortion is performed, supported, or referred for as a method of family planning, a Trump administration official tells the Weekly Standard in an email. The 1970 law was establishing Title X states. None of the funds appropriated under this title shall be used in programs where abortion is a method of family planning. But in the 1970s and 80s, the law was interpreted to allow Title X programs to refer patients for abortionists, be co-located with abortion clinics, and lobby for pro-abortion policies, so long as federal dollars did not directly fund abortions. In 1988, President Reagan's Secretary of Health and Human Services issued regulations to end these practices that blurred the line between funding contraception and promoting abortion. The 1988 Reagan regulation was immediately challenged in court and never enforced, but it was upheld by the Supreme Court in a 5-4 decision in the case Rust versus Sullivan. By the time the abortionists might have actually lost their Title X funds, however, Bill Clinton took office and killed the Reagan regulation, a policy that has remained in effect to this day. This anti-abortion regulation wasn't reinstated by the George W. Bush administration. Unlike the Reagan administration, the proposal will not prohibit counseling for clients about abortion, but neither will it include the current potentially illegal mandate that projects must counsel and refer for abortion. A Trump administration official tells TWS, this proposal does not necessarily defund Planned Parenthood as long as they're willing to disentangle taxpayer funds from abortion as a method of family planning, which is required by the Title X law. Any grantees that perform, support, or refer for abortion have a choice: disentangle themselves from abortion or fund their activities with privately raised funds. If and when Title X prohibits funding for abortionists, Planned Parenthood would still keep the overwhelming majority of its funding, which is mostly provided under Medicaid. and may only be cut off through legislation signed into law by the president. Efforts to defund Planned Parenthood gained momentum in Congress in 2015 after undercover videos revealed that Planned Parenthood had been selling the body parts of aborted human beings to for-profit biotech companies. But defunding efforts largely failed in 2017 for several reasons. A few senators who supported defunding Planned Parenthood in 2015, Republican Lisa Murkowski and Alaska Democrats Joe Manchin in West Virginia and Joe Donnelly of Indiana, opposed defunding in 2017, leaving the Senate divided 50-50 on the issue. In March 2017, Vice President Mike Pence cast a tie-breaking vote to allow states to defund Planned Parenthood. Language cutting off federal funding to Planned Parenthood was included in every serious bill considered in 2017 to partially repeal Obamacare, including the one that passed the House and the skinny repeal bill that failed by one vote, McCain's vote, in the Senate. After Obamacare repeal efforts failed in 2017, congressional Republicans did not heed calls to make a last-ditch effort to use their reconciliation bill, the process by which the Senate can annually pass substantive legislation that cannot be filibustered, to defund Planned Parenthood as a standalone measure. Congressional Republicans then decided not to include Planned Parenthood language in their subsequent reconciliation bill to pass tax reform out of fear that it would cost them necessary votes of Republicans Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. House Speaker Paul Ryan privately assured pro-life groups at the time that language defunding Planned Parenthood would be included in this year's reconciliation bill, but any remaining hopes that this Congress would defund Planned Parenthood was very likely scuttled on December 12th when Alabama Democrat Doug Jones defeated Republican Roy Moore in the special election to fill Jeff Sessions' Senate seat, leaving a majority of the Senate opposed to defunding Planned Parenthood. Jeff Sessions would have been better off just remaining senator, don't you think?
The idiot, he's compromised.
Yeah,
they got something on him. He's not.
At least if he had remained senator, he could have voted.
Fire Sessions
to defund Planned Parenthood. Well, it's too late now. He's out of the Senate. He can't go back there either. So
he needs to be removed. I mean, that guy is not doing anything. Now look at this, folks. FBI acknowledges life-saving potential of armed citizens. Look at this. Armed and unarmed citizens engaged a shooter in 10 incidents. Quote, they safely and successfully ended the shooting in 8 of those incidents. Their selfless actions likely saved many lives. The enhanced threat posed by active shooters and the swiftness with which active shooter incidents unfold support the importance of preparation by law enforcement officers and citizens alike. Those are the final lines in the conclusion of the FBI's active shooter incidents in the United States 2016 and 17. The FBI's conclusion. The FBI defines an active shooter as one or more individuals actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a populated area. Gang and drug-related shootings are excluded for the first time. They usually just lump them in. The active aspect of the or at least the left did when they speak about it. The active aspect of the definition inherently implies that both law enforcement personnel and citizens have the potential to affect the outcome of the event based upon their response to the situation. 10 active shooters were confronted by citizens. In 4 incidents, the responding citizens were unarmed. These heroes include school staff, shooter's girlfriend, and a man who intentionally struck the shooter with his car. 6 shooters were confronted by armed citizens. 4 shooters were stopped by lawfully armed citizens. 1 citizen was wounded as he confronted the shooter. In 1 incident, a citizen possessing a valid firearms permit exchanged gunfire with the shooter, causing the shooter to flee to another scene and continue shooting. Unsurprisingly, it seems that these criminal cowards prefer targets incapable of defending themselves. Anti-gun politicians, celebrities, and organizations deride the idea that citizens can successfully defend themselves, their families, and those around them. They prefer that law-abiding gun owners be disarmed, a position they advocate from behind the safety of armed security, like Alyssa Milano, the piece of trash. White supremacist Klansmen, white privileged piece of trash. We're fortunate to have real leaders who understand that Americans should be trusted to take responsibility for themselves, their families, and their communities, and that the quickest way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. The FBI's latest report affirms that ability. And here is the white supremacist, white privileged Klans girl, Alyssa Milano, who wants to get rid of guns for poor black people by supporting the disarmament of the population. There she is, the idiot with black armed guards. And she's gonna, if her policies would get through, she would be disarming millions of minorities, millions. This little Klanswoman, white supremacist, white Nazi, is trying to disarm poor minorities. Little leftist Nazi. You'll likely recall we mentioned a new anti-gun organization recently formed, which was billed as the brainchild of actress Alyssa Milano. The white supremacist, white privileged, white Nazi Klanswoman. You may also, of the left, you may also recall that we reported her group No RA had made the vaguely threatening proclamations, we're going to show up at the NRA convention in Dallas and make them wish they stayed home. So what happened? Well, we enjoyed yet another NRA annual meeting that set a new record for attendance, and which included both President Trump and Vice President Pence addressing a crowd of enthralled supporters, and for No RA's threat, meh. While No RA and Milano encouraged supporters of their anti-NRA agenda to attend a protest, the NRA convention event on Saturday, May 5th, the turnout cannot be anywhere close to what they hoped for. One could say they drew a small crowd, although even that might be a generous description. There may have been 100 people who showed up, although the estimate likely includes casual passersby and looky-loos who were simply curious about what appeared to be an intimate small gathering. More than likely, she had a few dozen supporters. Considering the population of Dallas-Fort Worth, Arlington metropolitan area is nearly 7 million, and considering Dallas County voted 64% to 36% for Hillary Clinton in 2016, one would think a group that has placed most of its focus on being anti-NRA could get more people to show up to protest our biggest event of the year, where President Trump came to praise NRA and its members. Perhaps the drawing power of Milano is not what it was when she was a child star of the 80s, playing the precocious Samantha Maselli on the TV show, Who Was the Boss? Or maybe people are simply tired of seeing celebrities try to blame NRA and its nearly 6 million members for the violent acts of deranged criminals. Then again, maybe people are simply confused by the messaging of No RA. After all, why show up to a protest if you don't know what you are protesting or supporting? A visit to the No RA website will find it short on any sort of specifics as to what it hopes to achieve, other than its opposition to the oldest and largest civil rights organization in America, your NRA. Of course, we can speculate Milano and her ilk don't like AR-15s, as well as other commonly owned semi-automatic rifles. The No RA logo depicts one that has been broken. And she has made negative, ill-informed statements about ARs and similar other doctored guns. Other than that, though, in espousing their apparent hatred of NRA and its nearly 6 million members, the group doesn't offer a specific plan. The NRA website doesn't state support or opposition to any particular initiative or policy that it claims will help, in other words, move, quote, culture into a less violent place, whatever that means. Ultimately, Milano and her group utterly failed, epic fail, at garnering any semblance of opposition to NRA that would lead anyone who attended the meeting in Dallas to wish they stayed home. Honestly, hardly anyone even noticed No RA was there, and the prevailing feeling among attendees was that they would love to return to Dallas for another annual meeting in the future.
Yes. When my wife and I were going in, we observed that actually we had more protesters here in Newfoundland on February 28th than No RA did at the center of Dallas, Texas.
In the middle of a city.
In the middle of a city, yes.
Oh, man. And NRA had record numbers of people attending. 100,000. And Trump and Pence came. No RA, your freaking ashtray, you little white supremacist, white privileged, white Klansman, little racist little white girl. Give me a freaking break. All these racists are really the leftist party. The real racists are the left. Mm-hmm. They're the racists.
Yes. Yes.
They're the little Klansmen.
Yes.
Hard times for Dick Sporting Good, who has no balls. As Second Amendment supporters respond to companies' anti-gun. I've never gone shopping at those pieces of trashes ever again. They should be put out of business, those little pieces of trash, the leftist, white supremacist, white Nazis. We have recently been reporting on the bizarre anti-gun activism of one of the nation's larger firearm retailers, Dick's Sporting Goods, and its affiliated Field & Stream stores. First, the company announced it would stop selling most centerfire semi-automatic rifles at a store and carrying only limited capacity magazines for semi-automatic guns, and ban firearm sales to certain legally eligible adults. It then took the further step of declaring it would destroy its inventory of the newly restricted firearms at company expense. My gosh. And if that weren't enough, the news also recently broke that the company had hired expensive DC lobbyists to push for gun control measures on Capitol Hill. Dick's, in other words, was positioning itself as a rising star in the field of corporate gun control activism in obvious contradiction of its own financial interests. Wow. Now, however, the pro-gun community is pairing Dick's gun control thrust with their own countermeasures, while customers appear to be eschewing Dick's to search for bargains elsewhere. Last year, the Board of Governors members of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the Trade Association for Firearms, Ammunition, Hunting, and Sports Shooting Industries, voted unanimously to expel Dick's Sporting Goods from membership in the organization, thank God, while the NSSF noted supports the right of its members to make individual business decisions. It determined that Dick's new policies do not reflect the reality of the vast majority of law-abiding gun owners and constitute conduct detrimental to the best interests of the foundation. Law-abiding gun owners, the company added, should not be penalized for the actions of criminals. There you go.
Before we go off, I'd like to read a couple of tweets from President Trump.
Oh, goodness. Mossberg & Sons also followed this week with an announcement they will not accept any future orders from Dick's Sporting Goods or Field & Stream. Fantastic. MKS Supplies, High Point Firearms, inland manufacturers, to cut off Dick's Field & Stream. Fantastic. So more and more are signing up and cutting their relationships with the pitiful, no virility Dick's with no balls. Go ahead, Jim.
President Trump tweeted about Pennsylvania yesterday, so I'd just like to read those two. He says, Lou Barletta will be a great senator for Pennsylvania, but his opponent Bob Casey, has been a do-nothing senator who only shows up at election time. He votes along with Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren lines, loves sanctuary cities, bad and expensive health care, and voted against the massive tax cut bill. He's also weak on borders and crime. Sadly, our great military and vets mean nothing to Bobby Jr. Lou Barletta will win. Hashtag MAGA.
Hashtag MAGA.
Right.
And that is it for today, folks. Thank you for joining us on this Friday, May 18th, 2018 edition of the King's Report. We pray that you have a great day, that you are in the presence of God, that you are Psalm 19 walking today. For the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament declares his majesty. Or something like that. I just had a space out. I had a space out right now. And the firmament declares, help me. And his firmament, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork. There it is. There it is, folks. I'm getting tired after 3 hours of shouting and ranting. You understand. We'll see you back tomorrow, 5 a.m. sharp. God bless, Godspeed, and may his kingdom come.
Lonely eyes looking back at me. Will we